Hello, this is DrPaulCottrell, and I am doing this live stream on December 9th. I'm streaming on the larger channel and on the smaller YouTube channel, so please follow me with either stream. I will set up the links to my website for that live stream so you can watch either the dashboard or the larger video. On the larger channel, the larger video is presented. On the smaller YouTube channel, the dashboard is presented. And with that dashboard, you get to see all the market telemetry. So let me just do, the market is already opened up. It's 9:45 in New York. Let me just do a recap of the market here. The S&P 500 is at 6,083. I have a target year end of anywhere from 5,800 to 6,000, maybe 6,100. It's looking very probable that it'll even close over 6,100 by year end. But, you know, we'll see what happens because, you know, something could happen internationally here. VIX is at 1349, very low, so low risk. So that's usually a sign that equities are going to go up. We have oil trading below $70 a barrel, so it's at 68.35. The oil was trading at about 67 plus, so it is a little bit, it's like a dollar or so up compared to trading from Friday. Probably that is tied to what's going on in Syria. We'll see what happens. But it's still low, so that's positive for the market. Euro USD is trading at 1.057, so the dollar relative to the euro is relatively stable. No big change there. There's a little bit of an appreciation of the ETF for Bitcoin. BITO is what I look at. I look at BITO for longing, and for shorting I look at BITI. Right now, the short ETF BITI has appreciated about 40 cents a share. So Bitcoin is a little lower relative to Friday's close. But it is going up, so it looks like it's mean reverting. It looks like Bitcoin is mean reverting, and so it might actually go positive today. We'll see. USD yen is trading at 150.83, so the yen is weakening a little bit relative to the dollar, and the dollar is weakening or staying relatively comparative to the euro. So that's where we're at right now. And I've added another ticker on the watch list, which is the Nikkei index, and that's the Japanese index. I think that's something that we should be looking out for. And that traded last night at 39,605. 39,605. So up 90 from last night. Okay, so the ones that want to look at the telemetry, go to the smaller channel and you'll be able to see the telemetry in real time. Please help support my work by subscribing to all the channels. I have 4 channels on YouTube. I have Brighteon, Bitchute, and Rumble. I need your help, all right? Every time I post, YouTube bleeds me in terms of subscribers. If I stop posting, it doesn't happen. So I'm not going to stop. Why? Because that was the way I was born. But the thing is that I need your help. Please make sure you subscribe. All the channels. All the links are in the description of this video and all my videos. So please subscribe to all my videos, subscribe to all my channels, and also go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. It's through you donating and purchasing the products and sharing the links and participating that allows me to build this out. If you don't want it, fine, it dies. That's capitalism. But if you support it, it thrives. So it's up to you. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Help support my work. I have thousands of videos for free that talk about the economy, geopolitics, what's going on with international affairs and what's going on domestically, how to improve your health. Really important subjects that matter to you, all right? So help support my work by donating and by purchasing the products. You can donate on my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com. The link is in the description of this video and all my videos. You can donate through Stripe, PayPal, or Buy Me a Coffee, or be a paid member to my Patreon channel. It's through those donations that allow for my videos to be free. I have thousands of videos for free, all right? So, help support. Better yet, I want you to get the products that will help your health. If you follow what I do, and you tweak it based on your particular needs, you are going to move in a path of better health. So, the stuff works, it's very high quality. You gotta be consistent so you're having that compound interest accumulating for your health. But if you follow what I'm doing, you pay attention, you're gonna fare very well. So help support my work by going to the store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Before I go to the market news and what's going on in Syria, please go to my store and get the structural nano silver soaps. I have it in oatmeal, charcoal tea tree, and peppermint. Get a couple bars for your household. They're great as stocking stuffers or as a gift. They're high quality, right? So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the structural nano silver soaps. We're in the cold season, and I really want you to stock up on the drops, the structural nano silver drops. People during December and January are going to start contracting, typical things they would get during the cold season. Cases are going to be going up, all right? So you want to mitigate it right away. How you mitigate that irritant, you'll get like a sore throat. There's kind of like two manifestations that I think is starting to emerge in this cold season. No sore throat and excessive drainage. The other is a sore throat that starts and then excessive drainage. You want to mitigate that, all right? So the moment you're not feeling well because of the drainage or because of just some strange irritation that you feel, people, once they get sick a little bit during the cold season, they get that kind of irritation. The moment you get that, or you're starting to get that drainage, start taking the structural nano silver drops and lozenges that I have on my store right away. Because what happens is it's neutralizing the irritant, and what's going to happen is the secretions are going to protect your mucosal lining. If you continually have drainage and have irritation and inflammation, then the chances of further infection is going to increase. You want to mitigate that. You want to bring that down. You want to maintain that mucosal lining in your oral pharynx. So go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the honey lemon structural nano silver drops. It's in a 100 count. You can get it also in cherry, and you can get it in blueberry. Get a couple bags for your household. Be prepared, all right? Your co-workers, your household, kids, schools, you're going to start seeing additional cases. Nothing to be alarmed about, but the thing is that even a mild cold takes 3 weeks to remodel your body. Mild cold takes 3 weeks to remodel, to clean it up, to repair, and then the tissues were pre-cold tissue. So if you have a mild cold for 1 week, 3 weeks to remodel. So it's it's best that you pay attention to me. Get the structural nanosilver lozenges and drops. Use them right when you start having that excessive drainage and that irritating feeling in your throat. All right, and you're gonna mitigate the problem. Please go to my store and get the structural nanosilver drops. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna, let's drop into Bloomberg right now and listen to I think they're talking about the housing market.
Over the last year, where we see the most weakness develop is in Southeast, in Texas and Florida in particular.
Joining us, Selma Hepp. She is chief economist for CoreLogic. Again, 30-year fixed mortgage, 6.69%. That's, I mean, as someone was saying, by historical levels, that's normal. It's not a little bit.
You're
below.
feeling better.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just, I think people are now starting to get the realization, this is kind of it.
It's where we are.
This is the new normal here. If I'm lucky, I get a 5 handle, but this is kind of the new normal. If I want to move, now's the time. Or maybe, there's probably not going to get paid to wait.
There you go, yeah. And as you said, I think there were a lot of people who thought with that first cut, the 50 basis point, things were going to really change. And
I
they did not.
Yeah, the market's not, I mean, it's just not telling you. I mean, the market goes higher, but don't you scream to these bond market traders, hey, the Fed's cutting interest rates, what are you doing?
Right, exactly.
But I guess it doesn't work that way. That's why I was not in the bond market during my career. I'd sell you a bond, but I'm not going to invest in these things. I was an equity person. Looking at the markets here, a little bit of red on the screen, a little bit of green on the screen, not a lot of movement. Presumably, Tom Keene will be back.
I'm here if you need me.
All right, we'll see how the Gulfstream's working, if we can get him back here to friend your climbs. That's it for Bloomberg Surveillance. Bloomberg Intelligence coming up in just moments. This is Bloomberg.
And if we're gonna listen to Cher, we might as well segue into a commercial, right? I do apologize for product placement, but the thing is that I sell a lot of products on the store, and a lot of people don't understand on how to stack. And that's the magic of supplements is stacking. If someone says, just take this supplement and it's gonna do everything for you, it's idiotic. It's stacking, all right? That's the magic of longevity and anti-aging and improving your immune system and your endocrine system, all right? So just, I honestly don't like plugging products. I don't like it, but it's something that I have to do to inform the public on how to use them. So I've partnered up with Rainbow Herbals and we've created these great deodorants. Why did we create these deodorants? Most deodorants out there cause problems for your endocrine system, all right? To get a good quality deodorant, it has to be custom. It has to be made, in a custom way, all right, with very high level of ingredients and low production to get a very high quality product, all right? So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the peppermint, lavender, and tea tree deodorant or the citrus deodorant. These are for males and females, and it's a dual purpose product. You use it as a deodorant every day. So you smell nice, right? And it also helps to detoxify your body slowly. So it's a win-win for you. It's a dual purpose, all right? It helps support the channel, and it also helps with your health. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get these great deodorants. They're made from essential oils from the Himalayas. The ingredients are from the Himalayas. All right, very high quality ingredients here. All right, you're not going to get a better deodorant. So go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get these deodorants that help with your body. By detoxifying your body, you're improving your immune system. You're improving your endocrine system. You start taking that other stuff, it's a messing up with your endocrine system. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Taking antioxidants it's a really important pillar for slowing down the aging process and improving longevity and vitality. I have a very potent antioxidant on my store. It's C60, all right? C60 is a 60 carbon molecule that's suspended in a lipid, an oil. All right? You need it suspended in an oil so you can absorb it. All right? MCT coconut oil is one choice of oil that you can use, or avocado, or extra virgin olive oil. You take a teaspoon a day. And what will happen is that those free radicals in your cells will get neutralized by the C60 molecule. This is very potent because the C60 molecule can neutralize hundreds of free radicals. Other antioxidants can only neutralize one per molecule. That's the reason why it's so potent. You take this every day, what's going to happen is the cells are going to have less stress and they're going to perform better, and your mitochondria is going to be performing better and be healthier. That means you'll have more ATP. When you have more ATP, you slow down aging. You have more vitality, you build more muscle, you have better memory, you have better coordination with your peripheral nervous system and your muscles and your balancing. So, and you're improving your endocrine system, you're improving your immune system, you're doing a lot of things. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the C60, soak up those free radicals. It's part of a 3-pillar system that I have. Neutralize pathogens with structural nanosilver, take strong antioxidants like C60, and lower inflammation, lower pro-inflammatory cytokines by taking things like turmeric and ashwagandha. All right. I'm wondering if we should go to, let's go to France 24 here.
By a rebel alliance dominated by the Islamist group Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, joyful residents taking to the streets after the announcement of Assad's departure, while crowds are being touring the ousted leader's luxurious home. But as the implications of Assad's downfall begin to ripple across the region, Israel already carrying out airstrikes on what they describe as strategic weapon systems inside Syria, saying that ground troop operations on Syrian territory would be a limited temporary step. And this as the Kremlin says it's been Vladimir Putin's personal decision to grant asylum to Assad and his family. Antonia Karagas gives us the latest.
In the streets of Damascus, residents triumph over the toppling of Bashar al-Assad, climbing onto the tanks abandoned by his army, some describing a feeling of disbelief.
I can't describe the feeling. It's a dream we haven't woken up from yet.
A newfound sense of freedom after years spent in a climate of fear.
We were unable to talk about the fact that we were persecuted and living without dignity. Everyone who went abroad would tell us that there are such things as human rights, but we didn't see any of it. Hopefully, now the country will get better.
And some of those who left the capital at the beginning of the war have now been able to return. This one as a rebel fighter.
We smell the air of Damascus that we were deprived of. We were deprived of it for 13 years. We returned, thank God, and things are fine.
Hayat Tahrir al-Sham claimed the capital on Sunday after a 10-day-long lightning offensive that deposed the president. Residents celebrated the end of the Assad family's half-century-long dictatorship by looting the presidential palace, while this government immigration office went up in flames and this portrait of Bashar al-Assad's father torn down. The future is uncertain for Syria. What will life look like under the Islamist group Hayat Tahrir al-Sham? But Syrians worldwide describe relief and optimism.
And joining me now from Damascus is France 24's James Andre, who reached the Syrian capital several hours ago. James, just give us a sense of what it's like there on the streets.
Well, what it's like is that it's a big, it's a big celebration, really, with people who are extremely happy that indeed the Bashar al-Assad regime has come to an end. People who are surprised that they have a job not believing that this actually happened after all these years. This regime that felt so powerful, so mighty, that controlled every aspect of their lives, and indeed just fell very rapidly in just a few days. So yeah, we saw people on celebratory fire here in Damascus. People fire assault rifles in the air, and also a backdrop of some bombing. We had some loud explosions, probably airstrikes or artillery, difficult to tell, but in any case, it does appear, this is what we've been told, that the Israeli forces are bombing some weapon depots that belong to the Assad regime, but that has been difficult to confirm independently. Basically, people very, very happy here. We spoke to a few of them. A woman, for example, who told us that we asked her if she was worried, because of course, with potential hardline Islamist party coming into force in the capital. She said that she was not worried, that she was much, much less worried than she was with the previous regime, including for women. Also, I spoke to a warlord, one of the rebel commanders, came down from Egypt, and he told us that basically, it had been very easy simply because the regime forces had not fought when they were descending onto the capital, and also telling me that, well, yes, for now they're tolerating telemetry fire because indeed, he said, you can't stop people from enjoying this moment and celebrating, but he said that they want to rein that in very rapidly. Other people have been immediately being told because of stray bullets. So indeed, scenes of joy and happiness in Damascus. And then on the way into the country and towards the capital, we saw some Syrian refugees coming home and people jumping out of cars, kissing the ground, and telling us that, of course, that it was extraordinary that they stopped believing they'd be able to return home and having been outside their own country for over 10 years. So obviously a lot of emotion here and a lot of happiness.
And have people's reactions been like when clearly you as a member of the foreign media are asking them questions? Are they happy to see you there?
Yes, well, everyone's been very happy, very friendly, very happy to speak to us. It's been absolutely not a problem to work in Damascus today. To be honest, it's been fairly easy. There are no Israeli forces. When you cross the border, for example, there are no soldiers there. There's just a group of militiamen who are just manning what's left of the checkpoint and basically greeting people coming in. But no, everybody's been extremely friendly and extremely happy, and a lot of people trying to speak a bit of French or a bit of English to us. So yeah, very much a happy mood, if you will.
James Andre, thank you. This is James Andre, France 24's correspondent, who's just arrived in the Syrian capital. And regions in southern Syria are now under the control of those armed rebel groups, and they're entering a new phase. Between military reorganisation and aspirations for civilian rule, the balance does remain fragile in territory marked by its diversity.
Since armed rebel groups took control of southern Syria, their fighters have set up checkpoints in DRPaulCottrell and Syria to maintain order. The group's factions are largely dominated by the Free Syrian Army, created at the start of the Syrian Revolution in 2011. They say they want to enter a new phase to organise themselves into a regular army and manage local affairs, in coordination with other groups that have taken power in the country.
We announced the total capture of the Syrian rural territory along the border with the Syrian Golan. We reaffirm our commitment to preserve public and private property in the south, especially in Bitchute.
Residents are calling for a quick transition to civilian rule and for equal treatment of all residents, regardless of their religion, whether Muslim or Christian.
We congratulate our people in Syria for this huge victory. We got rid of the tyrannical regime's gang. This is a victory for us and for the martyrs who sacrificed themselves for our liberation. May God protect our prisoners and may they come back safe and sound. We're expecting groups of free prisoners to arrive from Damascus. We hope that they'll return to their families safely and in good health.
In the south, which is home to some 1.5 million residents, many armed groups coexist, ranging from Islamist to civilian factions. The Free Syrian Army remains most influential.
And thousands of displaced Syrian refugees in Lebanon have begun their journey home. Displaced Syrians dragging their luggage and carrying bags are crowding the Masna crossing with Syria, trying to cross the border on foot. Lebanon saying that it's closing all of its land border crossings with Syria except for Masna, which links Beirut directly with Damascus. And it comes as Turkey's top diplomat has called for an inclusive new government in...
Let me just interrupt. I just set up X spaces, so the ones that would like to do a call-in, because this is supposed to be interactive, where you can do a call-in through X spaces, and you just raise your hand and I'll let you on and ask, you can ask a question or give me your opinion on certain things. This is supposed to be interactive. So, again, follow me on X. The link is in the description of this video. Follow my space. It's called Telemetry, episode 44, live call-in. And just raise your hand or request, to come on, and I'll let you talk, about what we're covering here, all right? It's about Syria. It's going to be about the markets, any breaking news, a little bit about politics and Trump. Maybe if you want to talk about, if you saw the reopening of Notre Dame, that was pretty cool, What were your feelings on that? This is supposed to be interactive, all right? And as it becomes more interactive, we're going to be able to do metadata and triangulate information as breaking news happens. But you have to get used to doing this. So please, go to spaces, do a listen in if you want, watch me live. I've also set it up for my website, so you can watch the live stream on either the big channel or the small channel on my website directly. So there's lots of ways to listen. Spaces, call in on spaces, watch on YouTube on 2 different feeds, watch on my website with 2 different feeds. Lots of interaction, so please participate.
Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan saying that Ankara expects international actors, especially the UN, to support the establishment of an inclusive administration. Analysts say the situation in Syria representing an opportunity for regional influence for Turkey, and it certainly has skin in the game, housing more than 3 million Syrian refugees who fled the civil war. Camille Knight has more.
Large crowds gather in Istanbul waving Syrian and Turkish flags. Syrian refugees have been celebrating the fall of Bashar al-Assad's regime, many hoping this will give them a chance to return to their homeland.
We will return to Syria. We will repair it again. Everything will be better.
Turkey has been a main backer of opposition groups aiming to topple the regime since the outbreak of the civil war. For some time, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan had pressed Assad to discuss the diplomatic return of Syrian refugees, but to no avail. Assad's collapse now offers Erdogan a unique opportunity to achieve his goal.
When we extended our hand to find a solution to the Syrian crisis, the Damascus regime never realized the value of the hand Turkey extended.
Syria is the world's largest refugee crisis, and over 3 of the 14 million who were forced to flee since 2011 now live in Turkey, making up nearly 4% of the population. The European Commission has poured over 11 billion euros into helping Ankara host Syrians and discourage them from travelling to Europe. But tensions in Turkey have been mounting, with Turkish groups committing sometimes deadly xenophobic attacks against Syrians. As people in Turkey became increasingly in favour of Syrians returning to their homeland, it became top of the agenda in the country's 2023 election, Erdogan vowing to return 1 million refugees to safe zones in northern Syria. With the regime now toppled, Erdogan will be hoping to see Syrians return on their own accord.
We will go back to our country once things calm down and stability and safety prevail. But we are so happy about this victory.
The main rebel force, HTS, now presents Syria as a safe place to come back to, but there are concerns about the stability of the situation. People's ability to return will depend on whether HTS can organize.
I don't think that HTS is going to create a stable environment, because I think the economic is in shambles. And it's going to be problematic, and I think there are going to be factions that are going to be fighting each other because of these economics and the the ownership or control of the oil fields is going to be a major factor. And who has control of the port. So let's go to Bloomberg. They're talking about Assad being toppled here. So let's listen in.
You know, it's hard to know. Rebelling is hard, governing is frankly a lot harder. And the track record here for overthrowing Arab authoritarians is not terribly uplifting. Egypt, Mubarak's gone, a more repressive authoritarian military government replaced him. Tunisia, Ben Ali, aspiring democracy, now an authoritarian government. Saddam Hussein, Iraq's pretty dysfunctional, a lot of disappointments there. Yemen, Abdullah Saleh overthrown, the Houthis are in charge of much of the country. Syria may have a better chance. Headlines appear to be pretty good. Not a lot of repression or retribution yet. Golani's singing a pretty moderate tune, invited the international press in, sending signals to the Alawi community in Latakia that not interested in retribution. I guess, guys, the question will be power sharing. It'll be power sharing, and it'll be whether or not the Islamic principles and strictures of these Sunni political Islamists can be reconciled, with the largely traditional secular Syrian elite, and whether or not, you can govern. Syria's broke and heavily indebted to the Iranians. Oil industry is muddled to 2.5 billion barrels a day. It pales before the larger producers. So it's going to be a real heavy lift.
Syria borders what? Israel, Lebanon, Jordan, Iraq, and also Turkey. Does the response by one dictate the response overall by the others?
Well, it's been a playground for external intervention since the beginning of the Civil War. The Turks have had a huge role to play, as you pointed out, Iran, Hezbollah, and of course Russia doesn't share contiguous borders, but was the key broker and savior, redeemer of the Assad regime when it was challenged in 2015. I think that the prospects for external intervention is still there, and by the way, the Israelis need to be definitely put into the mix. Prospects for external intervention are there, but the real troublemakers, the Iranians, I would argue the Russians, Hezbollah, they've been set back. There is more agency now for Syrians to function and focus on Syria than at any time in the last decade or so. The Turks are now the big boys on the proverbial block, and their motives are mixed here. But they will be the great power, the regional power to watch.
All right, Aaron, thank you so much for joining us. Aaron David Miller, he's a senior fellow at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, joining us from Washington, D.C. And, one of the questions I have ongoing will be what role, if any, will the U.S. play in how this thing develops?
And we did mention we will, for the flow of refugees, which from Syria has kind of shaped the political landscape of Europe.
Yep, and I'm just kind of seeing some of the reporting today. 2.5 million of refugees have gone to Turkey and some 3 million to Europe, to your point, John. So again, a fluid situation over there. We'll keep up with the reporting. This is Bloomberg.
Let's go back to France 24 here.
So Russia, not in full damage control mode right now. In fact, by taking in Assad on humanitarian grounds, you'd say that perhaps it is trying to snatch victory from the jaws of this defeat, trying to make it look like that they are doing the upstanding thing by giving sanctuary to someone that they supported through all these years and not just dropping him at the last minute. But Russia knows basically that it has lost, at least at this stage in the game, a big geopolitical battle, part of the battle. Whether or not the broader war, the geopolitical war, is now going to be lost by Russia, that remains to be seen. But it's clear, I think, Iran seems to be doing more right now to shore up its position with Syria in the wake of Assad's fall than Russia, which has merely granted sanctuary to Bashar Assad.
Doug Herbert, thank you. Now, another country watching events closely is its neighbour Israel, which has already carried out airstrikes on what they describe as strategic weapon systems inside Syria, saying that ground troop operations on Syrian territory were...
I did get a question that I just noticed in the chat here, and pardon me because I'm looking at so many things. I didn't see the little question here. But again, you can go to the call-in on X Spaces, and I can put you on the mic, and you can be on the show and ask the question. It's a little bit more interactive when you do that. But here, the question is, what kind of government did Assad run, and the Syrian refugees, what type of political, religious ideologies do they practice? So my understanding with Assad, I had to look it up, was that he's Shiite Muslim, right? And there's a offshoot of that religious conviction called Alawati. I think it's pronounced Alawati. Alawati, I think, sect. So Alawati minority, an offshoot of Shiite Islam that is specific to Syria. All right. So he's a minority group within the Shia Islam religion, and I think that's the reason why some of these individuals, in the country, are not that offshoot, and so there's an infighting that's going on. So, plus I think it's about the economy. I think yes, there's tension because of the religious factions within Islam, but I think a lot of the people just are tired of the war-torn country, and the economy is absolutely in tatters. And so this is probably a economic and a religious set of ingredients that led to the overthrow of his regime. Now that's my take on it, and you might have a different take, which is fine. But I apologize for not seeing the question earlier. But there's a lot going on here. But if you would like, you can just go on X Spaces. It's live. You can just request. I put you on the mic. You just mute your computer if you're watching the live stream on YouTube or whatever, and you're live. You can ask the question, and it can be more interactive. But thank you for the question. I appreciate it. All right, let's go back to what's going on with France 24. Looks like they're talking about
seem to be much more eager now. Even Israel may be showing some signs of flexibility. Today, the Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar said that there could be a hostage deal in exchange for, he said, a ceasefire, but he did not say a permanent end to the war, which until now has always been an Israeli condition.
Noga Tanapolsky reporting there from Jerusalem. Thank you. To other news now. An amended lawsuit filed in an American federal court alleges that rap mogul Jay-Z raped a 13-year-old girl along with Sean Diddy Combs during a party in the year 2000. Jay-Z denying the allegations on social media and blasting the lawsuit, describing it as being part of a blackmail attempt by the plaintiff's lawyer. However, lawyers for Jay-Z have not...
Let's see here. What's Fox News talking about here? I want to go to Fox News. They're talking about, I think, the United Health assassination.
Firearm over the weekend. It is now believed to be a veterinarian gun used by farmers and ranchers to silently put down livestock. Officials releasing new images showing the masked gunman sitting in the back of a taxi, leaving Central Park shortly after the shooting. This is probably the best picture we have of him so far. Police also finding a backpack filled with Monopoly money and the jacket in the park believed to belong to the suspected gunman. The New York City Mayor, Eric Adams, says the net is tightening on the suspected killer as investigators travel to Atlanta seeking additional video. Joining me now is former New York City Police Commissioner and Guardian Group CEO, Ray Kelly. Ray, it's great to see you. Thank you so much for weighing in on this. We want to hear your expertise on all of this. How do you see this murder?
Well, it's so brazen. You know, it's right in front of a major hotel, right in front of cameras. So this individual planned this for quite a while, but he didn't factor in all the cameras that are in New York City. So I think the investigation is going well. It's tedious. It takes a lot of work to track somebody's efforts throughout New York City for 10 days, and I think the department did a great job. And they're pretty certain that this individual left the city. So the focus is going to shift. As you said, there are investigators who are in Atlanta. The FBI is assisting the NYPD. And these things take time, and it's understandable that it does take time.
So, I mean, are you surprised that he left New York? I mean, the NYPD telling us on that day they think he left New York. How did we miss him?
Oh, I think it was pretty easy to miss him. He was on a bus, apparently, less than an hour or close to an hour after he did the shooting in Upper Manhattan. So he did the shooting on 54th Street in Manhattan. He makes his way through Central Park. Then he makes his way to a bus terminal in Upper Manhattan and apparently got on a bus. I mean, it's logical that he would do that. And we don't know, did he go to an airport? Did he take the bus to an airport? Did he get on the airport?
The USD Japanese yen has broke the 151 barrier. So 151.13 is the trading of that USD Japanese yen pair. That looks to me as risk taking, all right? Because one of the indicators for risk is to take a look at the USD Japanese yen pair. But equities is seeming to fall out of bed here. It's trading at 6,073 for the S&P 500. The Euro USD is stable. Nothing's really moving there. Oil is going up a little bit. It's trading a little higher. It's at 68.80. Bitcoin ETF long has started to drop. It's trading at 25.29. So the short ETF, BITI, is trading at 23.03. The short ETF for Bitcoin is up about 75 cents. So strengthening of the dollar does seem to be negatively correlated with Bitcoin, at least right now. Okay, let's continue on with the CEO murder that took place in New York.
So I think the circulation of his picture, I haven't seen anything like that in quite a while. It probably was in every newspaper in America, and probably every TV station put that picture up. So yeah. I think it's just a matter of time. And
notice he changed his jacket.
I think good work has been done so far.
So, Ray, I mean, what are your thoughts on the evidence that we have seen or heard about? There were words written on the shell casings of the bullets. Delay, depose, deny. This guy had a silencer on the gun. Initially,
the media isn't focusing on maybe the right questions. Maybe they should focus on why was the guy shot, not who shot him. What things were going on with the CEO from UnitedHealth that would have led to this, or to prevent him from saying something later down the road. Guess what? Insurance companies are part of the problem of the broken healthcare system that we have in the United States. It's not the only reason, but it's a big part of the reason. This guy was making millions of dollars while there were many, many people that had denied coverage. You know, that their coverage was denied for a particular procedure or for a particular disease as they were being treated. That's wrong. He's sitting high on the hog and people are being denied coverage. I don't feel sorry for the CEO. I don't feel sorry at all. Doesn't mean that it should have happened, but I don't feel sorry for him because he probably deserved it.
And he fixed it and he kept shooting. The CEO, Brian Thompson, does this individual appear to be to you a professional or an amateur?
No.
What do you take away
No,
from, and what about the mistakes he made, Ray? He held a cup, Dunkin' Donuts a cup, he threw it away. He threw his phone in an alleyway. Talk to us about some of that. What does that tell you about him?
Well, I think he's a motivated amateur. And the writings on the showcasings, I think, indicate, assuming they're legitimate and weren't done to throw investigators off, it shows the kind of animosity that's out there directed at insurance executives, which I never knew about. It really is startling that you see now thousands of messages on the internet supporting the shooter. So yes, he made a lot of mistakes, obviously.
I'm not supporting the shooter. The thing is that, you know, he shouldn't have shot the guy. But the thing is that bad things happen to CEOs where they're making millions of dollars while other people are going bankrupt because his company decided to not cover treatments. Or their loved one, a family member, it dies because of denied coverage and they couldn't get the treatment. The cost of healthcare is out of control. The reimbursement system is out of control. The cost to become a healthcare worker, out of control. The amount of effort to get into the industry and to maintain licensure in the industry, out of control. The litigiousness of the society, where you have to, you know, look over your shoulder into a, you know, because you're worried about some sort of malpractice, out of control. This is what breaks healthcare. And this is why we have a system that isn't working. Now you add in poor life choices, the water supply being poisoned, the food supply being poisoned. And who's benefiting? Who's benefiting from having all those different chemicals in the food? It's these conglomerates that own food production and big ag. Why do they have these chemicals in it? To preserve the food, so it can have a longer shelf life. Well, if it has a longer shelf life, it probably doesn't metabolize very well in your body. And when it does break down, it's probably leaving chemicals that you really don't want. And then we wonder why there's so much endocrine disruption. So the healthcare system is broken. And this is what I'm trying to do, to try to inform people that you can take charge of your health by changing your lifestyle and doing things that are beneficial to different organ systems. If you really pay attention to what I do, you're going to get healthier. And it's a holistic approach. Because you don't want to be a doctor, a physician that is caring for you because of, let's say, heart disease. They don't really care. All they care about is you're being a patient number that leads to a billable code so they get paid. That's all they care about. They don't care about you. It's very rare, and chances are they're really green as a physician, and once they wake up to the way the system is, they stop caring. And this is why there's so many people that stop practicing medicine or stop being a nurse, because the system sucks. So pay attention to what I have to say. It's about proper diet, proper exercise, do some resistance training regularly, do some cardio regularly. You don't have to be a triathlete, right? But you have to do about, 30 minutes of exercise, do some balancing, do some stretching, really important, especially when you get older, because you want to activate that cerebellum. When you're activating that cerebellum, you're reducing the chances of Parkinson's. You're reducing the chances of having the problems of gait issues when you get older. You ever look at a older astronaut, like they're in their 70s or 80s? They are much fitter. Now, why is that? Pay attention to what people that are older that don't have gait problems. So it's about balancing exercises. It's about stretching exercises. It's about light resistance training. You don't have to be Arnold Schwarzenegger. All right? But you need to do some resistance training on all your muscle systems. That's your legs, your arms, your core, your torso, your back, your neck, your shoulders. When you do that, you're improving your skeletal muscular system. And when you're activating those muscles, not only are you building muscle, you're strengthening your bones. And not only that, you have nerves in your peripheral nervous system that are being activated. So you're strengthening your peripheral nervous system. And you're strengthening the afferent and the efferent nerve circuit from your brain to your muscle and back. And by doing that, on a regular basis, you're slowing down the aging process. When you stop doing that, your peripheral nerve starts to atrophy, your muscle starts to atrophy, you start to lose bone mass, and then all of a sudden, you're a 75-year-old lady, you fall, you break your hip, 3 weeks later, you're dead. Could have prevented it. So, proper mindfulness, a little bit of spirituality or meditation helps to calm down the system. So you go into parasympathetic mode. Proper diet and proper, food intake. Stay away from the chemical foods, the processed foods. Filter your water. Proper supplementation to give your body the nutrients it needs. Because when you get older, you can't eat just the carrots. If someone says, I'm just going to eat everything all natural, and you're in your 50s, can you reduce some of the sad diet effects of American society by being healthier eating? Yes. But as you get older, you need nutrients that you can't get through just eating, because you would have to eat a truckload of carrots, or you have to eat a truckload of beets. You have to have it in higher concentrations to start reversing the effects of the methylation that's taking place on your genes. As we get older, our genes start to methylate in a different arrangement and starts to turn off and turn on certain cells. And as our turn off or on certain genes. So as the methylation changes as we get older, we start to age more and more and more, because certain genes that are kind of like anti-aging genes start to get turned off. Your tumor suppressor genes start to get turned off. Then all of a sudden when you get older, boom, the cancers start to go up. Boom, the cells don't perform as well, start to accumulate toxins, and then all of a sudden you start to age even farther. Eating a lot of carrots isn't going to stop that. Taking certain types of supplements to slowly change the methylation process through the aging is how you do it. You walk with me on this journey, and I am very sure that you are going to see some serious health benefits. But you got to look at it holistically, and you have to be continuous on it. Proper sleep, really important. Bring down that stress level. Having more energy when you wake up is really important. Consolidating the memories. And when you do that, you're reducing that toxin level that's in the central nervous system. And guess what? Your neurons are healthier. And oh, your memory's better. Your mental acuity is better. You can do this. But if you don't, and you start going down the path of disease, then it's harder to get back. It's a lot easier to deal with it before disease starts. So please, listen to me. I know what I'm talking about. I do it, and I've been doing this for a long time. I don't even know how I got down that road. Oh, it was the healthcare. The health insurance companies. Sometimes I go off on a tangent, but it's my show and I can go off on a tangent. So the health care industry is broken because of many different variables, but a big part of it is the insurance company. And you know what? They're starting to implement AI. And AI is going to make a decision, not a person, and decide if you should be getting treated. That needs to be seriously regulated, totally regulated. But the thing is that CEO, had our investors that he's keeping happy, keep that stock price at a certain level, keep those dividend payments coming in. They don't care about the little granny that was denied service and now she can't eat because she has to pick her medication over food. And that's a real problem. A lot of people in the United States, they're living on, a lot of these elderly, they're living on Social Security. And they just don't have enough to get by to the next month. So as disease starts to progress and they need further treatments or further medication, they can't afford it. The system is broken. Now you listen to me and we'll be able to get America healthier. If Congress elevates RFK Jr. and stops the crazy crap at HHS and FDA and CDC, Americans will get healthier in another vector. Reduce the poisoning. Reduce the inadequate testing of certain types of medication or treatments or inoculations. It's a holistic approach, but you have to take charge. The biggest part of it is that you have to take charge of your own health. If you don't, you're going to have a problem. You may not have a problem right now. You may be 20 years old and think that life is is your oyster and you can do whatever you want. Most people that think that way, things start breaking down at age 35. Maybe you go, well, I'm healthy and I'm fit and blah, blah, blah. Maybe 55. But it's going to happen if you don't take charge of your own health. And we need people in government that restructure HHS, restructure the CDC and the FDA in such a way where they're beholden to the American public and that their outcome is measured. And that outcome is the health of the citizenry. Children are sicker than they were 30 years ago. Why? It's the food. It's the treatments. It's the scheduling. That's why. Take charge of your life. Take charge of your own health. Because if you don't, you're going to be those patients that physicians see, or nurses see, healthcare workers try to treat, that are in their 60s, 70s, and they're very frail. And they don't have the money to be able to, and many times, they don't have the money to treat. the patient doesn't have the money to treat. And then to make it even worse, you have the problem with the insurance company doing the reimbursement. And because there's such a large percentage of the population that it falls into this category, that's why we have Medicare and Medicaid. So to really solve the cost of healthcare, if you do this holistic approach, you won't need the traditional allopathic healthcare. Now, for most people. Now, of course, there's going to be certain situations where you're going to still need allopathic. But you're reducing the probability of needing it, or reducing the amount that you will need in your geriatric years. You can learn from people that are anti-agers, all right? And you can learn, the ones that are in their geriatric years and the ones that are in midlife. Anti-agers and longevity individuals and how they live their life, what they do. And you can see the trajectory that for them in their geriatric years versus someone that didn't. And you look at the geriatric years of these patients that are very sick. It is very hard on the soul of a healthcare worker to see this on a continuous basis. And it's going to get worse in the United States because of the graying of the society, the whitening of the hair of the society, because of we're moving into a population that's going to be very old, it's going to be elderly, and that we're going to have a society that's going to have to deal with some of those problems, those geriatric year problems. Now, people that have tried to care for a elderly parent or family member, it's pretty sad to see as they decline. It's pretty sad to see, especially when it comes to neurological. And it wears on the soul. Now that's at the family level. Now just imagine what it's like at the societal level, when more and more of the baby boomers are aging and having health problems. Big issue. And so the insurance companies know that they have to pay out a lot of money to treat these geriatric baby boomers. So they try to find ways to prevent payment. So they have a better bottom line. So a CEO can go to during the investor relations meetings and say they had a record year. They had a record profit. And so his stock options go up. And so he makes even more money. He gets a base salary and plus stock options. So no, I don't feel bad for the CEO getting killed. I don't feel bad. Because the system is broken and he was part of that broken system. I don't think he should have been assassinated, but I understand why he was assassinated. The system is broken.
This is one of them, the picture where he smiles at the desk clerk, and that is a pretty good picture.
Yeah.
Facial recognition is very, very effective these days. Some police departments don't use it unless they're looking at people who have already been arrested. So it's limited, sort of self-imposed limitation, but facial recognition is effective.
This is also an element of the Biopatriot Act that I was talking about, where you have a build-out of surveillance technologies, where they're watching you 24/7, on video cameras, on your cell phone, tracking you. And you build out this footprint that big brother and little sister are watching you. And so what happens is that you are slowly losing autonomy. you're slowly becoming a slave. You're slowly living in Egypt. The whole world is slowly becoming a slave to the system. The moment you ask, Mister, can I have some more food? You're going to have a social media score that goes down because you're eating too much soup. Or if you say, you know what? We don't want the tyranny of the government. You'll have a government official that shuts you off from banking because everything's digital now. That's the world we're in. Not that we're going to, that's the world we're in. It's just only going to get worse. And it's the element of the Biopatriot Act that I was warning people about. Decaching is something that I talked about back in 2015, maybe even 2014. There was an IMF paper that came out, a white paper, I believe it was the IMF, and it was a white paper that I was talking about. It was called decaching. Now we call it digital currency. So whichever decade you want to talk about, they always change their phrase. But the reality of the situation is that it's part of a system that if you are being tracked through metadata on a blockchain, they can control you. You're in Egypt. You are a slave.
And I would hope that it's being used in this case.
Ray, you think they'll get this guy?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I think so. Just a matter of time, and I think fairly soon.
Okay, let me move on to immigration, Ray. New York City Mayor Eric Adams is going to be meeting with incoming Trump border czar Tom Homan this week. Here's what Tom Homan told me yesterday about this meeting. Watch.
We're talking about bringing everybody to the game, other law enforcement agencies, DOD. And I had to shut down my LinkedIn account because I got thousands of retired ICE agents, retired border patrol agents, retired police officers, retired military that want to come and do this job and make America safe again. There will be no lack of resources. As your first segment was talking about, we need the money. We need the money to have more detention beds and more underground transportation and to conduct these operations. So I'm hoping the Hill see the light and give us the money we need to keep President Trump's promise, the mandate the American people gave him, and secure this nation, secure the border, and remove the illegal aliens from this country who are not supposed to be here. Even though we got a prioritization on public safety threats and national security threats, I want to be clear. If you're in the country illegally, you got a problem, especially if you're a fugitive.
So, Ray, Mayor Adams said over the weekend that he's looking for ways to go over the New York City Council's head to change the Big Apple's restrictive migrant sanctuary city designation. That's a big deal, isn't it? There's a sanctuary city there in place, and now he claims that he's going to try to go ahead over people's heads, saying they stated their...
It's a state of an emergency. One, there's more crime, and it's dwindling the actual the revenues from taxes and hurting the society. It's an emergency situation in some of these cities. It's out of control. New York's one of them, but I'm sure it's not just New York, right? But the problem here is that if you don't have a forceful posture, then you're just going to have never-ending caravans coming in and going through a porous border. But if you close the porosity of the border, and you're forceful about charging these individuals for coming over the border illegally, they can go through the port of entry legally, right? If we don't have a deterrence on their activity, then it's only going to get worse, to the point where the country is no longer the country. You know, it's no longer as prosperous. It's no longer the same culture. It's no longer the same ethos. It's no longer the same, history. You lose the cultural affinity of the United States of America. There is one. You go to a foreign country, there is something special about the United States of America. All right? It's, there's a term for it, it's called exceptionalism. But, the thing is, we are exceptional. But we will not be exceptional if we keep on having a porous border. You can have a very, very nice, warm bath, right? But if you keep on running cold water in it, it's not going to be warm anymore.
Willing to change the sanctuary city law. I think they're wrong. I have my teams looking at my powers as executive orders, Ray. This meeting between Mayor Adams and Tom Homan is happening this Thursday. Your reaction?
Oh, it's great. It's great. I think Homan is terrific. He's got the energy, he's got the knowledge, he's got the experience. And this is just a late position that Mayor Adams took. He's been for sanctuary cities, or certainly supporting the concept for quite a while, up until just a few months ago. So he's fighting for survival. He's got a 28% approval rating. He apparently intends to run for re-election, irrespective of the indictments that he's subject to. So he's going to do anything he can to hang on. But I think him meeting with Homan was the right thing to do. You've got to get on board here, because he means business. We have hundreds of thousands of migrants in New York City.
I know, and some of them are part of these gangs. Ray, some of them are part of the very dangerous Tren de Aragua gang. Any thoughts on how to rein those gang members in? Send them back to Venezuela?
Well, sure, let's send them back to Venezuela, but I think also the FBI, because they're now national in scope. They're in several cities. I think they're in 16 cities in the U.S. And that's a national reach, a national coverage. Our national law enforcement agency, the FBI, should be heavily engaged in investigating these gangs, along with the efforts to expel them wherever we can.
Liz P., jump in here.
Good morning, Ray. What would be the immediate impact if Eric Adams is able to change the sanctuary city status? And what do you think the odds are that he can actually do that through executive?
You're going to have more money for the city, because they're in deficit spending right now because of, for many reasons, but one big reason is there's a lot of money going to these illegal immigrants. 2, you're going to stop the crime. Crime is rampant since this fiasco has been happening with the Biden administration. I voted for Mayor Adams because I thought he was going to clean up the city and he was going to be tough on crime. And he's been a little weak. Now, what is interesting is when you actually see him speak on TV, he seems a little weak. When you see him speak in person, it's a little different, actually. But he is, he has some legal problems that have to be shepherded through the whole legal system. He's weak. He's weakened as a mayor. Now he's trying to maybe align himself with Trump and maybe hope that will save his political career. But he's failed the city on this issue. New Yorkers want the crime and this massive inflow to stop. And the mayor has failed on this issue. New York's a dump. It's a total dump. Shiny city on a hill? No, it's not. It's a rusting. Literally, New York is Gotham now. In Batman comic books, or even in the movies, they talk about Gotham. That's New York. That's New York. Now, it's been in a steady decline since the 3rd term of the Bloomberg mayoral term.
orders, which is what he's talking about.
I think the immediate impact would be lawsuits. People are going to go right to court and they're going to slow it all down. But I don't think there'll be any on the ground impact, if you will. It's going to be a rough road to hoe in New York City and New York City courts. New York City has been proud of the fact that it's been a sanctuary city for, I think, since 1980. And they're not going to go easily.
What was going on in 1980? I heard this from a councilwoman. All right, I heard this from her mouth. All right, that the councilwoman in New York. Now think about what he said about 1980. What was going on in 1980 in New York? Things were really bad. A lot of crime. There was a white flight out of the city and into the suburbs. And this is the reason why Giuliani was elevated in the 90s, to stop the crime and to reboot the city. But the 80s were pretty bad for New York. And it was questionable that if the city was going to reinvent itself. But it did, because of Giuliani. Because he was tough on crime. But what was going on? Why did they want the sanctuary cities in the 1980s? As the white flight was moving out of the city, they were losing funds for their Department of Education. They were losing tax revenue. So if you inflow a bunch of people that have children, and you put those children in those school systems, in the public school systems, in the new year, they start counting all the students, and then they say, well, we need X amount of money. We have more students in the school. The school system gets more money when there's more students, irrespective if they're here legally or illegally. Now do you understand what's going on in New York? The state is worried about population decline and loss of representation in Congress. Why? Because it's based on population density. The state's more populous, the more seats you have that represent you in Congress. Oh. So this is part of the big reason why New York is a sanctuary city. You think New York's a sanctuary city because of the bleeding heart of liberals? No, it's about money. It's about money, and it's about power in Congress. And then because we have this litigious society, just slowing down the system and just creating more bureaucracy so you can't fix the system. Sound really familiar? Does that sound familiar? It sounds familiar to what is going on in healthcare. Insurance companies deny, and then what do? They use their legal team to just kind of push it off until Granny dies. The country is too litigious, it has too much bureaucracy, and because of that, it's less efficient and less productive. And the worst part of it, people are physically harmed because of it.
See if in fact that happens in any way, shape, or form, we're going to see a lot of litigation surrounding it.
Really? Ray, could you carve out some exception for criminals? Because that's really the issue here, right?
No. The issue isn't just the criminal activity that's going on with the illegal immigrants and these gangs that are controlling these different sectors that are housed in these hotels. Half of the people that are selling crap on the street that you purchase, that's stolen, that's illegal immigrants trying to make a buck because they got some sort of handler forcing them to do it. So if you're, female out there and you're trying to, get a Gucci fake bag on the street, you're participating in a major problem. So the problem isn't just the bad guys, not just the gangs. The problem is the illegal immigration, and the problem is the mindset of the people in political power, allowing this crap to happen. No, they broke the law. They shouldn't be here. They should be deported. Now the problem comes in is they get here illegally, and then they go to a nonprofit to help them fill out paperwork to get an asylum. And then they're put in a pending status forever. So it gives them this quasi reason to stay in the country. A little bit of political cover. But the nonprofit loves it because it gets federal or state funds for their help. They go to their donors and they go, we're helping 15,000 illegal immigrants. They'll say, asylum seekers. And then a big donor will go, wow, you're doing a lot of nice work. Here's $1 million to help fund, that activity in that department, that immigration department that you have at the nonprofit. So the nonprofits are on the take too. Now, why isn't someone talking about this on Fox News? Why? Why is it that Dr. Paul Cottrell has to shine a light in a little bit of the granularity of what the fuck is going on in New York? Why does Dr. Paul have to show a light on every fucking major event that's happening in the United States? Because the experts constantly fuck up.
America is saying, wait a minute, we have these violent gang members, etc. Why are we taking care of them? Is it possible to create some sort of loophole for getting rid of those people?
Possibly, yeah. This is probably a pretty complex area of the law. It involves federal law, obviously it involves New York state law. So it's not going to be easy. It just sounds like it's easy, but it won't be. We never should have embraced this 40 years ago. But
right, exactly. Should have never embraced it 40 years ago because they didn't care about the problems that it would set in motion at the city level, at the state level, or even at the country level. All they cared about was get a little bit of extra money for the education department. Maintain that power for congressional seats. We can't lose that power. It's a blue state. It's a blue state. We can't lose that power. See? See what's going on? And I have not found anyone that articulated it like how I did. That gets to the root cause of what the fuck is going on in New York. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, because where else are you going to get such wisdom and pontification? Get the collagen peptide supplement that I have. This is a powder. It has a big scoop in it. You take a scoop a day. You mix it with like soft food, like applesauce or yogurt or hummus. I mix it with hummus. Or you can mix it in a smoothie or with food or just filtered water. But you take it every day, all right? And what the collagen does is it helps with your skin. It helps with your bones. It helps with your joints. It helps with your cartilage. It helps with your hair and your nails. Lots of benefits with taking collagen, all right? It has a very impressive amino acid profile. I don't have time to read it. So go to the store, my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Help support my work because it's through you donating, through purchasing the products, subscribing, sharing the links, being interactive with this system that I'm trying to build out, we're going to be able to make America healthier. All right? If people follow what I'm doing, you'd probably reduce healthcare costs by about 25%. Really simple. But, you know, the problem is that the organizational inertia of the society has bought into a sick model for healthcare, and it's bought into eating crap from big pharma, or taking stuff from big pharma and eating stuff from big ag, and these conglomerates that own the food supply, that own all the ingredients and the products, like General Mills. These are the companies that are making you sick. Big pharma, big ag, and the conglomerates that own the food supply. Go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the collagen, improve your skin, improve your bones, improve your joints. Should be taking this. You don't want to be granny at 75 years old and you fall and 3 weeks later you're dead. Because guess what? It happens a lot. Go to my store and take a look at this great new product that I have. It's the heirloom barley. Heirloom barley. You take a few scoops of this, put it into your food, right? You can take it also with the collagen, and you mix it with your food, or mix it with just filtered water. Filtered water is really important to take. Don't take tap water. I don't care where you live. Don't take tap water. All right, filter it. Really important. And you know, take the heirloom barley. The heirloom barley will help to detoxify your body. It also brings down inflammation, and it has superoxide dismutase. It's an antioxidant. Have you been paying attention to my shows? It's a lot about antioxidants. So please go to my store. This is a very high quality heirloom barley. This is like a meal. So if you want to save a little bit of money, right? And get healthy and detoxify your body, take this every day. Mix it with yogurt or with hummus or make a smoothie. Get healthy. And your energy levels are going to go up. Get the heirloom barley, detoxify your body. I also have a different version of barley, which is called gladiator barley. Now this is a little bit more for one that wants to improve your strength, build up more strength. It's a little bit more of a skeletal muscle protocol. All right. It also brings down inflammation, and it also has superoxide dismutase. So what that is, it's an antioxidant. So you're bringing down inflammation, you're soaking up those free radicals, and you're building muscle. This would really be good if you take this with myotrol and the collagen. And what will happen is that your skeletal muscle structure will get better. A lot of people that are older, why do they start shrinking? And why do they start leaning? A big part of it is that they didn't take care of their bones, and they didn't take care of their muscles. You start to strengthen your back muscles and improve your core, your back will naturally start to move back into a more youthful position. You start stretching. Just lean down and try to touch your toes and count to 30. Do that once a day. Just once a day. And you're going to improve your back. Once a day. But instead what happens is when you're older, start just atrophying, you start getting osteoporosis, and then all of a sudden you start shrinking and shrinking and shrinking and shrinking and leaning over, and now you're old and you're like 4 foot. When you were an adult, you were 5'5", but now you're 4 foot, right? And you fall, you break your hip, 3 weeks later, you're dead. I'm not speaking in hyperbole. This is what is happening with a lot of the geriatrics out there. A lot. So if you want to strengthen your bones and your back and improve your posture, do some weights. But don't just focus on your front, which is what most guys do. They only focus on their front muscles. You need to focus on your back muscles. And not just that, you need to lean over and try to touch your toes, count to 30. You're stretching out your legs, but you're also stretching out your back. And then you do a reverse, where you put your hands up and you lean back as much as you can, count to 20. And what will happen? You do that once a day. Forward, 30, 20, and back, and do some, just simple back muscle exercises to build up some back muscles. And in 1 year, you probably will gain 1/4 of an inch in height. And you're gonna have better posture. In 1 year. If you think I'm wrong, try it. Try it. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Gladiator barley help to strengthen your muscles, bring down inflammation, and soak up those free radicals because it has superoxide dismutase. Some great products, great products. And again, because it's a high density barley, it's high quality barley, it's like a meal. Boomer Boost, another powder that you mix in a smoothie or soft foods or whatever. Again, I put it in hummus. All right, there seems to be a theme. I like hummus, but the thing is that this Boomer Boost has 68 nutrients that are really important that you should be taking every day. And what will happen is that you're going to have more energy and you're going to have more vitality. And this is a great way to feed your body the nutrients it needs. Now, there is a very extensive nutrient profile in this. So go to the store and take a look at the label. I don't have time to read it all. But the thing is that this is going to give you the energy, give you the nutrients to be more youthful and more energetic, healthier, and it'll help with your cardiovascular system. And you mix this with either Gladiator barley or heirloom barley or collagen, guess what? You've just created a major nutritious meal that's going to detoxify your body, soak up free radicals, bring down inflammation, and you're going to have more energy and you're going to be healthier. All you got to do is go to the store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Follow my advice or don't follow my advice. It's up to you. But if you don't follow my advice, you're probably going to have problems in your geriatric years. I also have a longevity boost box where if you buy the longevity boost box, you get the Boomer Boost and your choice of Gladiator barley or the heirloom barley. It's up to you. And as you buy it in a box, it's cheaper when you get these products. And also use the discount 5 on top of that. You can use discount 5, all caps, and then the number 5 on any product. But if you buy a longevity box or anti-aging box, they're discounted. So it's cheaper for you. And it gives you everything you need to know to move in the journey towards better health, anti-aging, longevity, more vitality, improving your systems like your endocrine system and your immune system, and your gut health. So go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and don't be a person that just atrophies away in their geriatric years, falls, and then 3 weeks later, they're dead. All right, what's going on here? All right, I want to play Times Radio. I like Times Radio, actually. This is talking about the downfall of Assad due to a broken Hezbollah and weakened Russia.
The war in Ukraine has weakened Russian air power. I mean, they can't have so much of it in Syria. Clearly, they need those planes over the Donbass, wherever. And I think more importantly, Israel's attacks on Hezbollah, starting off in August, with the pages and everything else, have really broken the organization militarily. Occasionally, before the ceasefire came in, fragile ceasefire, they would fire off rockets, maybe 50, maybe 100, to try and show they were still in business. But they were really broken by it.
When the Assad regime fell this weekend, it seems like nobody saw it coming. How come?
Yeah, well, the eyes of the media are very fickle, of course, and constantly flick this way and that. And the other thing I'll say, just to be a real pedant for a moment, but the phrase strategically important is one of the most misused journalistic, If you go to a military college or whatever and get educated in all that stuff, it's a place upon which the fate of the whole war will hinge. And actually, Aleppo turns out to have been the strategically important point, I think, really. And the reason I say that is because it's a vital city. I mean, it's the commercial hub of Syria. It took an enormous amount of blood and effort to conquer by Assad. And the manner in which it fell showed us that his forces just didn't have the will to fight. And from then on, I think all sorts of people around the country drew their own conclusions, whether that was the Kurdish militias in the northeast, whether that was, more jihadi groups, secular groups, whoever, the people in Dara in the far south, they all drew their own conclusions and started to step up their activities. And then, of course, the simultaneous challenge from all these different forces proved to be something which Assad's forces in this rudderless, demotivated state were unable to deal with. But yes, to come back to your question, I think that one of the things that had happened in the past few years is that Assad had increasingly normalized his relationships, particularly with Arab neighbors. And, he'd started appearing at summits and all the rest of it. And one just had that feeling, well, he's won. But of course, this pocket, a couple of pockets of resistance remained. And you had this HTS group, the one that's now been the spearhead of victory, up in the north in Idlib province. And you had the Syrian Democratic Forces, which is Kurdish-led, but includes various groups in the northeast. And that's where the Americans have actually still got troops from that period when you were writing your leaders. So the fact was the country was not completely conquered. And HTS was busy, they had a lot of money from Qatar, they had a lot of support from Turkey, retraining, rearming, training their people to do things like, first-person view drone attacks, where, the operator either wears goggles or sometimes even uses their smartphone to fly, explosive devices through windows or into bunkers, or we've seen a lot of it in Ukraine. But all of that kind of stuff. And they were ready to launch a much more effective attack on the Assad forces. And then, as I say, when that fell on Aleppo, we suddenly thought, oh,
this could all go, and indeed it did. Look, HTS then, who we understand now to be more or less leading
al-Sham, yeah.
Who I suppose one shouldn't describe as rebel forces anymore, because they're no longer rebel forces, because they've taken over. But what do we know about them? The US and the UK describe them as a terror organisation still. How much should our celebration at the fall of Assad be mollified, moderated by the thought that actually this could be somebody quite alarming taking over?
Well, look, I think...
This is how we made our workflow better than ever with Monday.com. It gave our team one centralized workspace where we could easily manage all...
I think that there is an inevitable tendency for some of the analysts, some of the Middle East specialists to do sort of yes but at the moment. Let's just allow ourselves a few days of sharing the joy of Syrians who've seen this hated system come down. I mean, if you think about the civil war, you know, catastrophe on such an enormous scale, the better estimates of dead are over 600,000. 15 million people lost their homes. And now we see these extraordinary human stories. I mean, something like the Count of Monte Cristo or something, a wizened, bearded man led from a cell who's been in there for 40 years.
Yeah.
Or I just was reading another story this morning about a guy who'd gone off to take his medical exam 13 years ago and never come home.
I mean, this is Ceausescu level, but beyond, right?
Oh, it's beyond. Yeah. It's beyond. I mean, tens of thousands of people detained, many of them, of course, murdered during those years that they disappeared. Families never knew anything. So we've got this joyous moment, and of course, all of the different armed factions will try and share in that. But then you come back to this irreducible fact that HTS, this Islamist organisation, provided the hardcore of the victorious forces and particularly triggered that process in Aleppo. And then, yes, there's all sorts of other people, there's Jordanian-supported rebels in the south. And by the way, a bit of a history there, British Special Forces being involved with them as well. And then you've got the American-supported Syrian Democratic Forces in the northeast. And and you've even got the remnants of Islamic State. So HTS had its origins in Al-Qaeda. The jihadologists can trace a kind of, to be flip about it, slightly life of Brian.
Let's put on our common sense hat, because I have a Detroit Tiger hat on, right? HTS is an offshoot from Al-Qaeda. Yeah, it's going to turn out really well for Syria.
Judean Popular Front type evolution between the different jihadist groups, in which, of course, as is the case in many of these out there ideologies, the internecine battles are often the bitterest and the ideological battles between the different forms of Salafists. Those are Islamists who believe in taking things back to a sort of, medieval almost code of rule and basing everything around Sharia Islamic law. Those were some of the bitterest fights. And so you had these splits, you had Al-Qaeda, you had Islamic State, and you had this other organisation which ended up being called the Nusra Front, Jabhat al-Nusra, under the leadership of Abu Muhammad al-Julani, this man who now is effectively the leader of Syria and made this amazing appearance at the Umayyad mosque in Damascus yesterday, this very historic place. And he has a $10 million reward on his head, still, from the Americans. HTS, as you say, is still prescribed as a terror group because it grew from, as it were, the spare rib of Al-Qaeda. And at the same time, everyone around the group is trying to say, look, this is a victory for all Syrians. We're not going to, mistreat minorities. And obviously, certain minorities were key to the support base for Bashar al-Assad. And they're trying to say, look, we're going to take this easy and respect differences. Now, you might argue that, for example, a group like Hezbollah in Lebanon has long, in certain ways, certain quite interesting ways, respected the fact that Lebanon is a multicultural, multi-ethnic type of society with different beliefs. So maybe you know, that there's some grounds to think that at least they buy the arguments and at least they know what ought to be done.
I love the idea of Lebanon being this positive civic model that perhaps Syria could aspire towards, but I see what you're saying.
It's that the more religious.
Are you ready for Stan's biggest deal ever? Lock in award-winning gig internet for as low as $45 a month. Plus, get a $300 gift card.
No, it's that the more religious forces, whether they're Shia like Hezbollah or some of the more extreme Sunni religious forces, understand that in Lebanon, you know, there's a sizable Christian population. You can't insist on an alcohol ban or on all women being covered, that type of thing. That's how things have worked themselves out in Lebanese society over the years. And of course in Syrian society, the old regime, the one that's fallen, was part of this secular Arab nationalist Ba'athist ideology, which always said, no, you've got the freedom to choose your ways. Anyway, look, I think short term, the big challenge with this terrorist designation and the reward on Jolani's head is going to be one for Western and other Arab governments. So do you deal with them? You know, because...
Yeah, well, let's broaden this out a bit to the general geopolitical picture, for which actually Joe Biden has been incredibly helpful, because President Biden gave a speech, I think, yesterday, and he painted a picture of America's enemies generally having been weakened by all this.
For the first time ever, neither Russia, nor Iran, nor Hezbollah could defend this abhorrent regime in Syria. And this is a direct result of the blows that Ukraine, Israel have delivered upon their own self-defense with unflagging support of the United States.
I mean, so the message there is pretty clear that this is not just the Syrian opposition rising up and finally overthrowing the dictator. This is also the result of what's been happening between Israel and Hezbollah, what's been happening between Ukraine and Russia. This is part of the great geopolitical struggle. What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's justified in the sense that if you go back to that civil war period and Assad's conquering of most of the country with very brutal methods, the truth is that the Syrian armed forces, mainly conscripts, were never any good and could never fight very well. They had a couple of elements, this 4th division that Bashar al-Assad's brother Maher was in charge of, and something called the Tiger Forces, probably just a few thousand soldiers. In all, maybe.
Breaking news here, China is cutting off drone supplies critical to Ukraine war.
15 or 20,000 soldiers who were really prepared to fight for the regime. So in retaking those places, the Assad regime found that the best shock troops were Hezbollah, were guys who'd come over from Lebanon. At times they had 5,000 Hezbollah soldiers there, and they would be given these assault missions of taking particular villages or suburbs of places like Homs, Aleppo. And they were backed up by Russian air power. So in effect, Assad relied on assault troops from the Iranian-backed axis of resistance, so-called, mainly Hezbollah, but also from other places too, from Iraq, from Afghanistan, are all brought there by the Iranians, backed by Russian air power. So going back to the Biden remarks, well, yes, the war in Ukraine has weakened Russian air power. I mean, they can't have so much of it in Syria. Clearly, they need those planes over the Donbass, wherever. And I think more importantly, Israel's attacks on Hezbollah, starting off in August, you know, with the pages and everything else, have really broken the organization militarily. Occasionally, you know, before the ceasefire came in, fragile ceasefire, they would fire off rockets, you know, maybe 50, maybe 100, to try and show they were still in business. But they were really broken by it. Thousands of dead, you know, casualties 2 or 3 times that. A lot of their missile arsenal lost, a lot of their key leadership taken out, those people who were experienced in fighting for those Syrian communities. And I think once it was clear, you know, I was saying on the Times podcast the middle of last week that that one thing was clear at that point was that Assad wasn't going to get Aleppo back because he lost those shock troops and the Russian Air Force and stuff like that, those key enablers of victory. So to that extent, I think Biden is right. And I think that, you know, the events triggered by the humbling of Hezbollah are key to what happened in Syria. Jolani has even said so, I believe. I think he's even said something along the lines of the Israelis did us a solid, you know. So I have to be aware of that. He's said something like that about the future relationship between the new Syria and Israel. And, you know, I'm not sure we finished yet with the aftershocks of that.
Finally, Mark, and as ever, I wish we had much longer, but where does this leave Iran, particularly?
In a very problematic place. You've got a radicalised section of the Revolutionary Guard who is smarting from what's happened with Israel, now of course what's happened in Syria, who wants Khamenei, the supreme leader, to do more to fight, to be punchier. And you've got a lot of the leadership that think, well, no, we've had some serious reverses here. We need to consolidate and think carefully about what we do next. And of course, you've got the Iranian public, which will have drawn lessons about the ability of people to defeat the Revolutionary Guard and the regime more widely.
Alrighty, that's Times Radio. Before we go back to Bloomberg, I want to do a market recap here. The S&P 500 is trading at 6,066. The VIX is at 1371. The Euro USD 1.057, so it's stable. Oil is trading at 68.50. Bitcoin long ETF BITO is trading at 25.23. It's down today by about 88 cents per share. And the USD yen pair is trading at 151.07. So dollar strengthening relative to the yen. Please help support my work by going to the store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the multivitamin that I have. This is an easy to digest multivitamin, and multivitamins are very important as cofactors for enzymatic activity. That allows for the cells to perform properly, and it's a great way to get healthy, all right? And again, this is easy to digest. A lot of multivitamins aren't easy to digest. So please, go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get this very high quality multivitamin. Should be part of your daily stack. A great way to lessen the stress on your pancreas is to take digestive enzyme complex. When we get older, unfortunately, our pancreas starts to age, and it doesn't function as well. It doesn't secrete as well the enzymes it needs to. So to break up those carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids, take the digestive enzyme complex. That way, it's lessening the load on your pancreas, and you're breaking down your nutrients, and you're able to absorb them better. If you work out, this is a great way to refuel your body, to help with breaking up the nutrients to fuel your workout and to quicken your recovery. So please go to the store and get the digestive enzyme complex. It's a very high quality product. And again, if you listen to me, your systems are going to perform better. Or, just be granny, fall, when you're, at age 75, break your hip and die in three days. It's up to you. And get the probiotic. I have it in two different forms. I have it in the veggie cap form, very high quality probiotic, or in a powdered form. Now, I usually use the powdered form because I just mix it with my hummus with all the other powders, and then it's a great way to just, fuel my body during lunch. I take it during midday, all right? But it's up to you when you take it. But go to my store, get the probiotic in veggie cap or in powdered form. Bring down that inflammation in the gut. That helps with your immune system, and it helps to heal the inner lining of your gut. You'll be able to absorb nutrients better. Your metabolism will be better. You'll have a faster metabolism. You're going to have a better communication with your liver. That help. The liver is a major detoxifying organ system, and the communication between your gut and your brain. You're going to have more mental acuity, more mental clarity, and a better mood. Your mental mood will be better. If you're chronically inflamed, you're not going to be able to think as well. You're not going to be in a parasympathetic mode. You're going to be in a sympathetic mode if you're chronically inflamed. That's bad. You want to be in a parasympathetic mode. So go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the probiotics, powder or the veggie cap form, both very high quality. Take it, improve your gut health. All right, what's going on in the news? Again, you can follow me on X Spaces. Don't be afraid to raise your hand, request to be on the mic and ask a question, or tell me what you think is going on with the economy, or with what's going on in Syria, or what's on your mind. Don't be afraid. This is supposed to be interactive, all right? I'm doing this as an interactive show, so please go to X Spaces and on my feed, my X feed, and raise your hand and request to ask a question. Don't be afraid. I want to go to this story. I don't know much about it. This is from Fox Now. Chemical weapons site struck. Israeli defense strikes chemical weapons plant in Syria.
Make this one simple change when filling out your FAFSA to cut your EFC and SAI in half so you can pay for your kids' college without.
We are following breaking news as it relates to Middle East conflict. Take a look. You can see Israel Defense Forces very busy this Monday morning. They put this out on X a few hours ago. They say a UAV, that's a unmanned aerial vehicle, that's what that stands for. They say that was likely launched from Yemen, hit a home in the area. They go on to say, as of now, no injuries were reported, no sirens were sounded. The incident is under review, end quote. All of this happening while the Associated Press is reporting this Monday that Israel's foreign minister says it struck suspected chemical weapons sites and long-range rockets in Syria in order to prevent them from falling into the hands of hostile actors. A lot to dissect this morning. We want to bring in Independent Women's Forum Senior Fellow, Dr. Kanta Ahmed, into the conversation. Dr. Kanta, always a pleasure to have you on the show. Good morning.
Good morning.
So I know you've had a very busy few weeks. I know you literally just got back from the Middle East right before this interview. Talk about your trip. You were in Lebanon, correct?
No, I was in Israel. I was looking at the front between Israel and Hezbollah in the very northernmost region, and it is.
You know how you can tell crazy liberals? All right, it's their glasses. The crazier they are, the more flamboyant their glasses are.
Astonishing to see the proximity of the Hezbollah infrastructure. I was standing in Israel, 300 meters away from the Hezbollah front, which, by the way, was constructed in full view of United Nations interim forces. So looking at the intimacy with which the belligerence of Hezbollah is encroaching on Israel, and of course kept Israel under fire for more than a year with tens of thousands of missiles, you start to see how complicated these relationships really are and how close all of these borders and all of these enemies are to the sovereign Jewish state. 6 weeks ago, I was also on the border of Israel and Syria at a special place known as Cottrell, which is a lookout point. And it was very clear to me at that time that the contracting footprint of Iran, which has really been decimated, seeing the destruction of its proxies, Hezbollah and Hamas, achieved by Israel, was leaving a vacuum. The time that I was there 6 weeks ago on the border of Israel and Syria, one could still see and know that Russian patrol troops were very nearby, just behind the hill from the lookout point where I was. Now we see a Syria that apparently has fallen to a rebel leader who's being rebranded as some kind of leader for the nation, though he was previously a member of Jamaat al-Nusra, which was previously an offshoot of al-Qaeda, and in my opinion is just as much of a radical Islamist as any of the groups in this region.
Thank you so much for that detailed analysis there, Dr. Conto. So a lot to dissect, because I told you when we were in break, it seems like every time we speak, a new conflict has come about. I know when we were further at first looking at the very latest in Yemen, we were looking at the Houthi rebels. A lot of questions this morning about that organization and how that relates or does not relate to the Assad regime. Could you provide that perspective, please?
So, Janae, I think the most important thing you've said is that each time we've met, this conflict is expanding and radiating outwards. It was triggered by October 7th Hamas assault on Israel. That led to a war, a defensive war of Israel against Hamas. And then that spiraled outwards because Hezbollah got involved, and that led to a front in Lebanon. Now we're seeing a front in Syria. Mentioning the Houthis, these are a Shia offshoot, a Zaidi Shia offshoot. They are very strongly aligned in allegiance with Iran. They've been financed by Iran. They control critical areas in the south of Yemen that strangle and bottleneck the Red Sea. And so the entire Red Sea has been at the mercy of their actions. And as you can see, they have drone capabilities. The international community was blind to cope with piracy in the Red Sea and join and make a coalition and fight piracy, but they've been absolutely inept at trying to control and push back these terrorists, they're a designated terrorist group, from disrupting the Red Sea. The first order of business for President Trump when he comes into inauguration is to first reopen the Red Sea. It's the world's most vital arterial maritime corridor. So that has to be more than just posturing with our warships. That group has to be defanged. Number one, financing from Iran has to stop, but actually bombing their installations and removing them from the arena so that they can not disrupt the rest of the region. I'm not aware of links between the Houthis and Syria, but I'm not deeply expert on that, so I could be mistaken. The situation in Syria leaves everybody in the region on edge, including Iraq, which is, of course, governed.
Breaking news. Daniel Penny acquitted in New York subway death of Jordan Neely. Breaking.
A federal Iraq in Baghdad, but has been proxified by Iran for decades in the vacuum the United States led. So there is a very powerful Iranian militia army that controls every checkpoint in federal Iraq. Only the northern Kurdish Iraqi region is autonomous. And Turkey absolutely anticipated this. Many of the Western commentators are shocked at the developments in Syria. But it was very...
Really? Where else are you going to go on YouTube where your favorite news pontificator is eating his lunch? This is PNN.
3 or 6 weeks ago, Turkey was already calculating the vacuum left by a retreating Iranian footprint, and they wanted to secure that northeast corridor. That's where they will confront Kurds that control the Kurdish area of Syria, but also the northeast corridor is the breadbasket of Syria. It's also where the oil assets are. It's very strategic. And Turkey is planning to relocate the 3.5 million refugees it took from Syria back there. Many people are wanting to go back to their own country and already crossing the border in there. It's yet to be seen, and my fear is, as Libya collapsed, as Saddam Hussein collapsed, are we going to get into another insoluble sectarian war, which will attract foreign fighters? And that's my fear. And that's why you see Israel is moving to secure its defensive positions in exactly those arenas in the Golan Heights that I was visiting. And Assad had astonishing chemical warfare. Let's not forget, he is the monster of our age. Barrel bombing his civilians, chemical warfare on his civilians, There are countless tens of thousands of Syrians in underground prisons. His record on torture, including torturing people when they were alive, organ harvesting people when they were alive, is well documented. So we just don't know how this is going to unfold.
A lot of unanswered questions this Monday morning, Dr. Consa. And one thing that you said that stood out for many of the viewers is about the fear and the people fleeing. I found this shot that I routed in so we could both look at this together and dissect it. You literally see droves of people standing there at that security clearance and at that border crossing. The question is, where can you flee when there's so much conflict there in the Middle East? If we look back at the conflicts with Hezbollah that we spoke on at the onset of this interview, we do know that Israeli Defense Forces told many people to evacuate before they began their ground incursions. But the question is there even a safe place? As we know, the conflict out in Gaza continues, the conflicts with Lebanon, and then now we are seeing with Syria.
So let's be very precise on this. The conflict with Hezbollah, Israel is with Hezbollah. It's not with the Lebanese people. It is very different. The Lebanese people, even though they were deeply distressed, some civilian lives have been lost, they were free to escape into the rest of their nation. They were not in a closed enclave. In Syria, it's not clear where, if further conflict is going to be. This self-appointed leader, al-Julani, now calling himself President Ahmed of Syria, is stating that it'll be a peaceful transfer, but we don't know. And also, the collapse of Syria is even more devastating for Lebanon, because Lebanon, which already had a very fragile economy, corrupted by the black market, by terror financing, by financing with the drug industry that would come from Syria, that has almost nothing to hold on to now. And Syria is now in this state of flux. So it's quite likely that we're going to see population influxes. Getting back to Israel, there are still 143,000 Israelis internally displaced in Israel. When I stood with the commander at Mizgav Am, a location right on the Lebanese border, I can see that the Shiite villages that were full of Hezbollah infrastructure absolutely surround the tiny Israeli valley. So any chance Hezbollah can regroup and conflict can begin again. And while there has been tremendous effort to decimate Hamas leadership, Hezbollah leadership, the infrastructures on both places, and that's really been achieved, I would not count Iran out. Iran is an extraordinarily resilient nation, or rather the Iranian regime. They were decimated in a 10-year war with Iraq, known as Gulf War I, and they had over a lives lost, and they came back to create this international proxy arena, which has disrupted the wider Middle East. So nothing is certain at the moment. I think Israel is taking very sensible defensive measures in its northern borders to protect against any fallout. I do think there are going to be many Syrians that are living in Turkey that are going to be thrilled to get back into Syrian territory. What they find there and how they will be governed is yet to see. And many, in fact, the first instinct I had is this very much reminds me of the fall of Kabul and how the Taliban achieved a domination over the country in a few days. And all kinds of nice speeches were made about how it would be a new Afghanistan and women and girls would not be persecuted and minorities would not be persecuted. And we are here today with over 40 million Afghans captive to one of the most brutal regimes in the world. So I am holding a judgment and very skeptical at the moment.
Dr. Consa, thank you.
We're going to go to the Daniel
Introducing
Penny.
the Highboy Max Pro electric scooter, where power and versatility meet in an exhilarating ride. With 48 volts 1.5 Ah battery.
This is bullshit. This is bullshit. All right. So Daniel Penny, I think this is a live feed from Raw. You know, live now. All right. Daniel Penny is acquitted, and you're gonna start hearing that. Oh, it's the black community that's being targeted, you know, by white males that are Marines, you know. Potentially, I don't think it's a high probability, but potentially this may, you know, cause some sort of protesting with the BLM movement. All right? But the reality of the situation was you had an out of control person on the subway, and someone decided to try to neutralize that person. So no further harm can take place on the subway. People don't realize, especially in suburbia, the subway system is extremely dangerous in New York. All right? That doesn't mean every train and every car on a train, you know, something's going to happen. But you travel on the subway system every day, at least once a week, minimum, you're going to see some sort of conflict going on that could lead to something like this. Doesn't mean that it will lead to something like this, but it could lead to something like this, at least once a week. The problem. And so you have the black community that's going to try to spin it as this is a miscarriage of justice. You know what was a miscarriage of justice? Lawfaring by Bragg, the DA, to try to demonize someone that was trying to neutralize an individual that was having unsafe behavior that could lead to harm on the subway system. Daniel Penny did the right thing. You know, neutralize the individual. Now, I'm sure Daniel Penny didn't want to kill him, right? You know, the chokehold killed the individual. But the thing is that you can't have these people running around causing havoc and harm on the subway system and not have someone step up and try to neutralize the perpetrator. So the way they're going to spin it is this is a white against black kind of thing. They always do it. They always do it every year, every year.
We can stop it is to stand together. Those of us who are against what happened, we have to speak up. We can't treat this just like another news story, not another press conference. We have to speak up, and stand up. So
that's a call for BLM.
We did not get justice once again.
See?
And I am saddened. I am truly saddened by this situation because it keeps on happening and no one is standing accountable for their actions. So that means that any civilian could get on the train if they feel threatened and they could choke someone out and they're going to get found not guilty, just like today. This sets a precedent. And we can't let this happen.
There was evidence that Neely was out of control.
If the police can't do it, the civilians can't do it either. And I just want you to stand with this family. This family needs you right now.
No.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
All right, we just heard the Daniel Penny acquitted in subway. Homeless man, the press conference.
Discipline. You've shown strength. You've shown love. You've shown how to carry yourself with composure when you're facing this machine, this American judicial system that cannibalizes our people. But I'm gonna tell you this,
And I'm gonna say it loud and clear.
So let me get this straight. When they went after Trump and the judicial system, you know, the jury considered him guilty, that was okay. You know, according to these people in New York, right? But if it doesn't turn out the way they want it, it's a miscarriage of justice. Now, the issue with Trump is that there was some serious lawfare going on and some serious miscarriage of justice during the court hearing, and there will be most likely an appeal, or no, because let me retract on that. They decided not to sentence, and they just dropped the case or suspended the case, whatever that means. So he's not even convicted because he wasn't even sentenced. That was dropped. So I don't. It's some legal crazy thing that's going on with Trump. But there was definitely lawfare against Trump to try to demonize him because he's a political opponent. But the liberals in New York, you know, they thought, well, you know, justice is great. When things don't turn out the way they want it, oh, justice is bad. You know, the reality of the situation is that, do you really want someone that looks like this coming, you know, to Thanksgiving? He looks like someone from NWA or you know, what was that rap? The Public Enemy one, Public Enemy. You know, there's a time to just realize you got to make the bed, pull up the pants, get educated, brush your teeth, and be productive in the society. And stop calling for burning down the town. Stop calling for activating BLM. You know, I don't think that BLM is going. I don't think that there's enough inertia to start another BLM, you know, rioting thing over this. I don't think that's going to happen. But it's possible. It's possible. I think it's a low probability, though.
Just march and let the steppers step. Let the marchers march.
See?
And let the steppers step. You want to do
He's activating BLM. Let the marchers march and let the steppers step. Doesn't that sound like MK Ultra kind of shit? Hey, you know, it's Hoodlumville. It's Hoodlumville in New York.
this verdict? Then you go into your neighborhood and you promote black unity. Black people, we are all we have. This system protects every other group except for the very people that built this country. Every group that...
It's the event of the season. Winning Wonderland is going on now through December 28th at Empire City Casino. Win your share of $1.4 million.
The bricks are on the bricks that built this country. There is no love for black people. There's no love in the system. How can you make a moral appeal to a people that have no moral code? How can you preach love to racists?
How could you have that stance on that podium in front of the courthouse saying, let the marchers march and the steppers step, whatever the hell that means, but it sounds like BLM activation, when you have so many black males, young, going into Macy's, going into CVS, going into Duane Reade, and stealing? Really? Really? They're not a paragon of virtue. A big part of this is socioeconomic problem. It's not about racism, it's about the economic problems in inner cities. But the thing is they want to make it into racism and activate BLM. And all of a sudden, Trump gets into the White House and now he's dealing with a BLM uprising funded by Soros and who knows, maybe Lockheed Martin.
Dr. King killed. How can you promote love to a nation that is built on death and genocide? That's right. What we preach is unity, black unity. Stop begging this system to justify our lives. Stop begging this system for justice. When things happen to you.
Was Neely unsafe in the subway? Yes. Where is this guy coming from? It's amazing to me. It's amazing to me. They're trying to activate BLM. That's exactly what it is.
You step up and defend yourself. Just like everybody else seeks justice on their own.
So what's going to happen? What's going to happen is that you're going to have crazy libs that are, you know, that are in this whole black BLM thing. All right. What's going to happen is you're going to have protesters that go onto the subway, and then they just start screaming. They'll go to someone that's white, and they'll just start screaming at them, trying to get them to do some sort of physical contact. All right? They're trying to incite violence on the subway. Today, it's going to happen. All right? There are going to be people that go in and try to incite violence and just scream and kick and whine like a little kid, a little child. They're going to act like a little child. Right? But some people, it might get pretty dangerous. And they're going to do this during the rush hour on the subway, where it's very packed. Watch. And it's going to happen around Bryant Park area. It's going to happen around Times Square. It's going to happen at Rockefeller Center. Probably Columbus Circle. Maybe even, World Trade Center station. Big problem. Big problem.
Vigilantes? We need some black vigilantes.
See? See?
People want to jump up and choke us and kill us for being loud. How about we do the same?
See? See? He's activating it. He's activating BLM.
I'm tired. I know you're looking for us to be like, oh, go and march. Go and march. No. This weekend, I want you to hold a community event everywhere from the Bronx to Seattle to Florida. Black people hold community events and talk about what you need. And talk about how to fix your issues. If the black politicians come, don't let them in. If they come, do not let them come and take over your fight for justice. Why? Because out of all the black politicians who said something about this initiative,
See what I mean about Gotham? See what I mean? It is just a complete fucking shithole. Can't we just have some peace? Can't we have some prosperity? Why does everything have to be a free-for-all? Welcome to Gotham.
I'm sick of these people playing with our lives, our children's lives. Black people, if you're serious about yourself, you'll take your education serious, you will open schools in your community, you will take your health serious and teach your people about health. You will take your self-defense serious, and you will defend yourselves in your communities. You want to take the information disseminated seriously? then you will start your own media outlets. Because if America knew that Daniel Penny lied to the judges 5 times, lied to the cops 5 times, if they knew that all the people jumped off the train who were afraid within 30 seconds, and Daniel Penny choked them for 5.5 minutes, if they knew the truth, everybody would be on the side of justice except for the racists. The people who are happy that Jordan Neely is dead. Unify yourselves. We will be putting out information on how to unify yourselves.
BLM.
But this ain't about us, this is about justice.
BLM.
So there'll be no more Eric Gardners. So there'll be no more Jordan Neely. So we will be a united front and a community.
BLM.
America will never save black people. Politicians will never save black people. Only black people will save black people. Hawkins from HAWK, NEWSLMH.
All right, everyone, we are listening to supporters of Jordan Neely. They're speaking right outside of the courthouse after the acquittal of Daniel Penny. We'll continue to keep an eye on this for you all right here on Live Now from Fox, but we do have some breaking news again. So it's back-to-back breaking news that we are bringing to you in connection to the CEO murder of the UnitedHealthcare CEO. A person has been taken into custody in Altoona, Pennsylvania, in connection. So this is what police are saying. A source with knowledge of the investigation into the murder of UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson told Fox News that a person fitting the suspect's description has been taken into custody at a McDonald's in Pennsylvania. The person has a similar gun to the one used in the shooting last Wednesday, the source added. Police tell Fox News that a person at the McDonald's recognized the individual from the wanted posters of the suspect and then alerted law enforcement. When police arrived, they spotted the person and found a weapon believed to be the one used in the murder here. So obviously this investigation has hit its 6th day as that manhunt continues. The city in Pennsylvania was Altoona. It's a city located about 100 miles east of Pittsburgh.
So Altoona, Pennsylvania, it looks like they caught the CEO murderer. This is going to get interesting.
For you on Live Now from Fox, earlier today, police were, NYPD detectives were once again in the area of Central Park looking for clues. Remember on Friday, they found a bag that contained, was from the suspect there. And inside that bag was Monopoly money. Many sources believe and experts believe that had something to do with trying to egg on the police and the investigation. But again, we are learning of this breaking news. A person has been taken into custody, matching the description of the suspect as it entered its 6th day.
So it looks like they potentially caught the murderer or the assassin. We'll find out what's going on here. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and help support my show, the work I do, support the channel by getting the supplements. Go to the-studio-reykjavik.com. The link is in the description of this video. And also, interact. This show is for individuals to ask questions. Go on X Spaces. It's a call-in. Request for the mic, and you can ask your question. Lots of things are happening in the world. And we need to build a community, right? And to be interactive to cover breaking news. But please help support my work. Lignans is a powder. It will bring down inflammation. It will help your immune system. It's an antioxidant, so it'll soak up free radicals, and it'll also help your endocrine system. This is a great way to boost up your immune system and give that extra boost for your body to fight disease, fight cancers, just have better health. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and take the Lignans. It's a powder. You mix it with your food or with filtered water. Vitamin B complex, really important for cellular metabolism. The first few B vitamins are for your mitochondria. That helps with the electron transport chain, so you build ATP. ATP is a major energy source. Also, vitamin B complex helps to improve neural health. This is very important as you get older. So please go to my store to improve that neural health, boost up your ATP, and have better cellular metabolism. Get the vitamin B complex. Olive leaf extract, dual purpose product, helps with the immune system and your cardiovascular system. How does it work? It works by bringing down inflammation and improving your lipid profile. Go to my store, get the olive leaf extract. This is a great way to start on the journey to improve your immune system, improve your cardiovascular health. And you stack this with other stuff, such as ubiquinol and omega-3 and noctokinase. You're really supercharging your body. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the olive leaf extract. And lastly, Myotrol. Really important to improve your muscles. All right? Earlier in the show, I talked about how important it is to build muscle, especially when you get older. Myotrol helps you to build muscle and to maintain muscle and improve your mitochondrial health. Again, you need a lot of ATP for your muscle. You need a lot of ATP to slow down the aging process and to improve your endocrine system and to improve your immune system. You need lots of ATP, all right? Myotrol will help you build muscle, help you to maintain muscle. This should be used with anyone that's 40 years old or older, or if you're an athlete or you exercise, pretty intense. If you are an athlete or you exercise with a lot of intensity, take this as a supplement and you're going to recover quicker and you're going to see gains in musculature. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the Myotrol. This is for people that don't work out, and it's really good for people that do work out. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Improve your muscle mass. It's a major issue with people that get older. They atrophy and they start having problems. You can stop that. Work out a little bit. Do a little bit of resistance training. Take Myotrol.
Probably about a dozen or so. It was larger this morning when the jurors were going in and when Daniel Penny was arriving here. But as the day got on, it got later into the morning, it kind of fizzled out. But they came with megaphones, they came with signs, and they wanted to make sure they proved the point that they were here. So whatever that verdict was going to be, they were going to be loud about it, and they were going to let us know and let the world know how they feel. Yes, it's emotional for them. They've been calling Daniel Penny a killer for months now. And for them to hear this news, it's still unsettling. And there is...
How's the way they act right after the verdict in front of the courthouse than any other day? They always raise their voice to try to get attention. Try to live in the inner city, all right? And actually pay attention to what's going on. You see this all the time, all the time. That's how they get attention. They're always raising their voice. They're always trying to get the attention. Instead of looking internally and seeing that, you know what, a lot of the faults are internal, you can correct them, take ownership of your life, and move forward, and be productive. It can happen. The most prosperous nation in the world, the most prosperous nation in the world, where opportunity is there if you are willing to take it and work hard. There's no guarantee. But there's more opportunity in this country than any other country in the world for the average citizen. If they think it's so bad in America, if they think it's so bad in New York, why are they there? Why are they in New York if it's so bad for their constituency? Why are they in the United States? Why don't they leave? They can go to a different country, have a better future if they think that they're the reality of the situation is the reality of the situation is this: their constituency has never had it as good. And the opportunities that they have are huge if they're willing to take it.
Emotion that they want to break through those barricades, they want to get to wherever they can get to try to make their voices heard. So that's kind of what we were dealing with, what these protesters are dealing with. They're back in the front of the courthouse, and we're about a block away from them, and we still overhear them at this hour. You may have heard it in Michelle's shot there. You still hear those loud voices and that eruption of just anger and frustration that after all this time, they really thought, again, they were frustrated when count one was dismissed, so imagine getting a not guilty verdict all around.
Absolutely. Something interesting that I think it was Eric Garner's mother pointed out, and that you are on the scene there talking to people day in, day out regarding this. And as a New Yorker, she mentioned that any civilian could get on a train, put someone in a chokehold, and effectively kill them, and then not be found guilty for murder. But what is the sense now in New York after this happens, and we are still dealing with this really high increase of mental health issues?
Yes, so I think it's mixed, Bianca, and to be honest, even being out here this morning, people seeing all the news media here, including us, we have a mix of people coming up to us. Right before we came on the air, I had a woman come up to me and say she's afraid to get on the train and has been afraid to get on the subway train ever since this case happened. It's always in the back of her mind. But then we have other people over the course of the last week who were telling us that this was justified. That Daniel Penny did the job to protect New Yorkers. There should be more people like Daniel Penny. And then there's other people who say, Jordan Neely, this was unjust, that this could have been handled differently, and that they worry that there could be more people out there like this, and this could happen to someone else who needs mental illness help that Jordan Neely obviously did not get.
Absolutely, and as is the situation for so many people here in New York. Richard, thank you.
Was Neely a nutcase? Yeah. Was he dangerous? Yeah. So you're not supposed to defend yourself because the guy's nut? I mean, come on.
For the info on that, we're going to be covering this case all throughout the noon and throughout the rest of the day. We'll check back in with you a little bit later.
Thanks, Bianca.
All right, some more following breaking news now on the CEO shooter manhunt. Now, sources say a man has been taken in for questioning in Altoona, Pennsylvania. He was said to be carrying a gun similar to the one used in that shooting. This comes as NYPD divers back in Central Park today. They're searching the lake near the Bethesda Fountain for a second day in a row. The suspect's backpack was found inside of that park, and the last official sighting of the suspect was on December 4th, the day of the killing, near the George Washington Bridge and the bus terminal, where he is believed to have left the city. And more of our breaking news
coverage. So that was the Fox 5 coverage right here on Live Now from Fox. We wanted to make sure that we brought that to your attention. Of course, that big news coming, though, really two major stories out of New York and now spreading to Pennsylvania in connection there with the CEO murder. A person of interest being taken into custody, matching the description here of this suspect. While that is going on in Pennsylvania, I do want to give you a live look right now what's happening still in New York City. You have dive teams taking a look here in the area of Central Park.
So they have dive teams that are looking for a gun, but they think that they found the gun where they picked up the potential suspect. I think at a McDonald's, maybe it was at McDonald's. Taxpayer money. Taxpayer money. All right. Amazing. Amazing. They probably caught the guy. That's probably it's probably what happened. Let's get the perspective from Fox on the Daniel Penny verdict.
Breaking news. The jury has reached a unanimous verdict in the case of Daniel Penny. He's been found not guilty on the charge of criminally negligent homicide. Now remember what was at stake here. The jury could not agree on manslaughter. They failed to agree twice. The judge gave them another bite at the apple on this lesser charge. negligent. They now say not guilty. What does this mean? Let's first go to reporter CB Cotton, who's outside the courthouse, to find out how this has played out. Now, I hear an immediate melee of protesters, CB.
You know what it means? Thanks for asking. Dr. Paul Cottrell thinks it means this. It means that you had a jury that realized that Alan Bragg, DA's office, is out of fucking control. And they'll pick who they want to charge. If a black person kills someone on the subway, they won't charge him. They won't even put him on bail. You don't pay for bail. It's zero bail. Let him go. Don't charge. White guy does it. They charge. So is there racism that's going on? Yeah. But it's happening where you have a black DA, Alan Bragg, going after whites and letting off blacks. And it's not just on the subway killings. It's with the thievery that's going on in the city. Just let them do it. And there's lots of people that go to city council meetings in New York complaining about this problem. Why aren't you going after the criminals, Bragg? Oh, you know what he says? People need a second chance. Oh, it's a mental health issue. Meanwhile, people's property is destroyed or stolen or lives are taken. So Alan Bragg used lawfare against Daniel Penny. Just like he used lawfare against, that office against Trump. Out of control DA, out of control. That's what it means.
Hi, Harris, that's right. Protesters are pretty upset. There's a large crowd of them out here next to me. You can hear them rattling the police barricades, saying no justice, no peace. And what they're yelling now follows a series of threats that they hurled earlier as the defense walked in with their client, Daniel Penny, telling the defense team that Daniel Penny can have no peace here in New York if he's found not guilty on this lesser charge, criminally negligent homicide. And from what I can hear right now, they're repeating those threats. They are very angry. Harris,
A person is presumed innocent until found guilty. Presumed innocent until found guilty. He was found not guilty. So he's innocent. But the black contingency, the ones that are trying to activate BLM, they just said that they're not going to give him any peace. Vigilantes. Out of control. It's Gotham.
And there were a couple people here this morning to support Daniel Penny, but the anti-Penny crowd far outweighs them, and they seem pretty upset. We're seeing police officers come out here in droves to try to keep the two groups separated for now. But I'm looking at our notes from the courtroom, and it seems like this is the first time we've seen some real emotion from Daniel Penny. His attorneys told me this morning that this trial has understandably taken a toll on him. He's been spending time with family and friends to try to stay calm. And our courtroom reporter telling me for the first time she sees him visibly smile, now hearing that jurors have decided he is not guilty of criminally negligent homicide. Harris, are you with me?
Yes, CB, thank you. Sorry about that, and we've lost our picture.
So in the
for a
background,
second there.
if you can't hear it, it's saying no justice, no peace. It sounds awfully like what BLM was doing with some other problems that we had a few years ago. Uh-oh.
we'll come back to as the news warrants. That is huge, what C.B. Cotton was just reporting there. That emotion also that she talked about, color inside the courtroom, the first time perhaps that Daniel Penny has had any sort of noticeable reaction. And of course, when a jury finds you not guilty, that is very different than being divided and sending this case again potentially for a retrial. This is significant, not just for Daniel Penny, not just for subway riders who may have been on that jury who found a way through all of the legal wranglings, it would seem, by what we know as a soft on crime DA who does not hand out
exactly
the adjudication.
Alan Bragg and his damn department. I mean, I saw Alan Bragg in person at an event, you know, and he spoke at the event. The guy's a fucking asshole. All right, Alan Bragg is a fucking asshole. He's destroying the city, and it's all about him and pushing this kind of like DEI woke agenda. In critical race theory kind of agenda. It's a kind of a mixture. It's not so much woke, but it's like, it's DEI critical race theory agenda.
Seen from Alvin Bragg. So this is really important. I want to bring in now Jonathan Turley, Fox News contributor, constitutional law attorney, and George Washington University law professor. Jonathan, before we get into what comes next in all of this, just your initial reaction. This was fairly quick.
It was quick, and it was not entirely expected because this is not obviously how District Attorney Bragg had planned this. The way the case was going was along the sort of design that Bragg had to force a compromise verdict. When the jury deadlocked over the more serious crime, the judge went ahead and allowed them to consider this lesser offense. That is basically what Bragg had hoped, that if he could not get a conviction on the more serious crime, which was unlikely, that they would come back and compromise and convict him on the lesser offense, which, by the way, still came with a potential penalty of 4 years. So I think that the most surprised person in that room may be Alvin Bragg, because you have a jury that apparently couldn't agree on the more serious offense, but then they came back and they said, but we do agree that he's not guilty of the lesser offense. So it's not exactly how this was supposed to play out in his view. And you keep in mind that this is a jury that received an Allen charge. And so that's where the court says, go back and try again. It's a favorite charge of prosecutors because jurors often do then produce a compromise verdict, a conviction for the prosecutor.
All right, well, before we do another, let me try to find another video that's dealing with, oh no, you know what? I'm gonna go to CNN about the man in connection with the CEO killing that just was posted. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, help support your health and help support the channel by getting the omega-3. Omega-3 helps with your lipid profile, really important to improve your cardiovascular health. Take this every day, and you can stack it with some items that I am going to tell you now how to stack to help improve your cardiovascular health. Nattokinase. It's fibrinolytic, breaks up clots, but it also helps to improve the lipid profile, and it's stackable with omega-3. So go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and take nattokinase. I have added this to my stack on a daily basis to lower LDL levels and raise the HDL levels. So nattokinase lowers bad cholesterol and higher good cholesterol. Vitamin K2 and K7. This is a dual purpose product. This will help with your cardiovascular health, but also help with your bones and your joints. Really important. And you stack it with vitamin D3. Vitamin D will help to absorb calcium. It's a gene expression cofactor, so your cells are expressing the genes that it needs to. And if a cell needs to go into apoptosis, Vitamin D3 helps with that process, especially if it's infected. When you stack these together, you're improving cardiovascular health and bone health and joint health, all right? And when you stack this with natokinase and omega-3, you're improving your cardiovascular health even more. So taking these two together are really important, all right, to start you on improving your cardiovascular health, but also your bone health. Like I said, osteoporosis is a big problem when you get older. Stop that. You can do it. Do a little bit of resistance training. Build up some muscle and build up some bone density. You can do that with stacking this. All right? Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Take the vitamin K2 and also take my vitamin D3. Stack it. Boom. Dual purpose. All right. What's going on at CNN here?
In the beginning, it looked like this. But as you grow, you become lost in a sea of tools and dashboards.
We start with breaking news in the case of the murdered health insurance CEO in New York City last week. Police are now questioning a man in Pennsylvania in connection with the killing of UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson. CNN's Bryn Gingras and John Miller join me now from New York. Bryn, I'm going to start with you. What do we know?
So we know right now, Dana, that there is someone that is being questioned by investigators right now in Altoona, Pennsylvania. This person is 26 years old, according to sources telling John Miller. We've learned that they actually got a tip from someone at a nearby McDonald's in that area who said, hey, this guy looks like the person that's in all those photos that have been circulating. And that's how he was brought in for further questioning. And in doing so, according to sources telling John, that they found a lot of evidence that could point in the right investigation for authorities at this point. They found a gun that resembles the one that was used in the murder last Wednesday. They found a suppressor, which is basically another word for a silencer that muffles the sound of a gunshot. We know that was also used in the killing on Wednesday. And they found a number of fake IDs with this person. One of those, according to sources, the NYPD does believe was used here in New York City. Now, also, if you remember, we reported that investigators believed their person who was responsible for this killing used a fake ID to check into a hostel in the Upper West Side of Manhattan. So it's possible that is one of those fake IDs. We've also learned from sources that there were some sort of documents that were with this person that is again brought in for questioning at this moment, and they're still going through all of those paperwork to figure out exactly what is said in those documents. But again, these are significant developments in this case, in this manhunt that has stretched far past New York City limits, and now we know that someone is in custody, someone is being questioned with authorities right now in Altoona, Pennsylvania.
Okay, and John, let's go to you. You have so much of this excellent reporting. Add to the color and the context and the information that Bryn just started to give us.
So, Dana, this starts as a very routine day in a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania, which has like 3 McDonald's. But an employee there looks at this person and has been seeing on CNN and everywhere else these photos from the NYPD of this masked person with a hood where they're saying, look beyond New York, because we think the person has left the city. And she believes that this person resembles the photos that have been put out. She calls 911, gets the Altoona PD. They respond to the McDonald's. They engage this individual. And as they get him to identify himself and look through things, they find a gun, they find a silencer, they find multiple false IDs. And when they begin to compare those notes with the police in New York, they find out that one of those IDs matches the name, perhaps even the one we're looking at, that he used a fake New Jersey driver's license to check into that hostel in Upper Manhattan. So along with all of that, there are some documents that the police said seem to be relevant to this case. I think we would stop short right now because we don't have enough information of calling that a manifesto, but we are told by investigators they believe he's carrying documents that may relate to motive.
Okay, I understand you're saying stop short now with regard to those documents, because obviously this is an ongoing investigation, as your former ilk used to say, John Miller. But talk about this with regard to the decision that police made. It was on Friday that we were talking shortly after the police decided to, in your words, crowdsource and put the picture of this individual out publicly. We don't know yet if this is the guy, but if it is, that tactic was the game changer.
Well, it was, and I mean, it hangs on a couple of things. One, finally being able, after this massive video canvas, using so many detectives, to find that single moment, and you're looking at it right now, that single moment where he dropped the mask, he still had the hood on, and you could see that face and $1 million smile as he was talking to that hotel clerk at the hostel and asking people, if you know this person, if you see this face, no matter where you are in the country, we're looking for that call. So that worked today.
And John, with regard to the documents and the motive, is there anything else that your sources are leaning into? We know that, first of all, the bullet casing, which you talked about again last week, with some etchings on them suggesting the idea that this could be related to the United CEO's job, and the idea that it is health insurance, which is not exactly a popular industry right now. And then, of course, what happened over the weekend with the backpack that was found in Central Park and Monopoly money inside.
So the bullets had the writing on them: deny, delay, depose. Theoretically, these are the 3 Ds that critics use against the insurance industry when they say they're trying to slow down payments on claims and fight those with members of their customer base. So that's one, the monopoly money, you know, perhaps a sign of greed. But when you look at what does this mean today, they have a person in custody, they're questioning that person. They have a gun, they have multiple false IDs, including one that may be relevant. So if you take that together and then say, what does the NYPD have to bring to this? They have DNA recovered from a water bottle that the suspect bought in a Starbucks, and a power bar that they recovered parts of or the wrappers of, and a phone where they have a viable fingerprint. So that's a lot of forensic evidence that they can run against the fingerprints of the individual in custody, the DNA that they will get a search warrant to get from him if he doesn't give it voluntarily. And if in fact he's carrying documents that relate to this, a weapon that may be matched ballistically to the things that were recovered at the scene, including the shell casings and the bullets, this could come together very quickly, fairly quickly, and very solidly in terms of evidence.
I don't want to lose sight of the most important thing that you're reporting was found on this person, which is a gun. I mean,
Well, that's
that
right.
could be the
And I
ball
mean,
game.
you know, we talk about the smoking gun. If this gun is ballistically matched to this crime, then the rest of the evidence, you know, will surround that. But that's going to be something that they can determine within a high degree of certainty in a relatively short time. And I mean, one thing we're not mentioning here is there's a citizen involved here who had the care to look at those photos, to look at that individual, to probably compare them right there. I mean, imagine someone looking at their phone, looking at that customer, and making that call, which also means that if our reporting is correct, that it's a McDonald's employee, they are eligible for this $50,000 reward from the FBI and $10,000 from the NYPD.
Quite a story, absolutely, if this just does pan out to be the actual alleged suspect. Don't go anywhere, John. Stay close. I want to bring now into the conversation senior law enforcement analyst Charles Ramsey and retired FBI agent Dan Bruner. Commissioner Ramsey, let me just start with you. What are your thoughts on all of this information that we've gotten so far, and what does it tell you?
Well, this could be very significant. There's no question about that. I agree with everything that John said earlier. A couple things. Number one, the fact that the photograph was put out across the country, and even though the person's face was partially concealed, it was still enough there for people to kind of get a sense or a feel for what this individual might look like. And kudos to that employee at McDonald's who looked at this individual and then called 911. You know, normally we don't think we're going to be the ones to solve anything as a private citizen. If you see something, you say, it's probably not the person. But this individual acted, and it may turn out to be the absolute right thing to do. The other thing is the recovery of a gun. Now we have forensic evidence from the scene. We have shell casings, we have DNA, we have fingerprints. All these things, if they match up, then this is the person who's responsible that's going to be charged with this particular crime. So there's still a lot of work that has to take place, but this is a significant development, no question about it, and we'll see how it plays out.
Chief Ramsey, thank you for that. Dan Brunner, what are your thoughts?
I agree with Chief Ramsey and with John. One of the most important things in this investigation definitely was putting the photograph, the information out there, because you're multiplying the number of people that are looking for this individual. Clearly was on the run. He had a step or two ahead on NYPD, and they were behind him, gathering all the evidence. But the crucial part was getting him, getting some eyes on it. And the McDonald's employee should absolutely be applauded that they made the phone call, even if they had the suspicion that an individual matched the description of the suspect. That's the job of law enforcement. In my fugitive investigations, I've had countless number of people who called in a tip that it didn't turn out to be anything, but at least we had tips coming in. Eventually, the right tip comes in, and we've captured fugitives at the FBI just like this, just having someone who randomly looks across the counter and says, that sort of resembles the suspect. Let me call 911, let law enforcement handle it, and that was the right thing to do.
Well, we'll see what happens. I think they caught the guy. But if he has a lot of fake IDs, then this was kind of, planned that he probably was going to get out of that state and I wouldn't be surprised if this guy is tied to the West Coast. But I could be wrong, but I wouldn't be surprised. But what's more important is to find out if there was some sort of personal injury that UnitedHealth did to a family member or to him personally. I think it's not just the story of him killing the CEO and evading authorities, but what was the motive? And when you dive into the motive, you're going to start seeing how the medical industry is partially broken because of the insurance companies. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the vitamin C and magnesium. This is a great way to boost up your immune system. You should be taking this every day, and it also helps with your skin. If you're not feeling well during the cold season, take a double dose, drink it with filtered water. NAC is a supplement that I have on my store that I've added to my stack, my daily routine. NAC helps to boost up glutathione levels. Glutathione soaks up free radicals. It's synergistic with C60. C60 is soaking up free radicals one way. NAC soaks up free radicals a different way. All right, but they're synergistic. It's really important to take every day. This also helps to detoxify your liver and your kidney, and it helps to calm the neural system. All right, so take this on a regular basis, boost up those glutathione levels, help with the health of your liver. Really important. Good Night Formula is a great supplement to take to get into REM cycle, 3 cycles of REM, deep sleep, so you're well rested in the morning, you're detoxifying your central nervous system, and you're consolidating memory. If you're chronically sleep deprived, you are increasing your chances of early onset of dementia. because you're building up toxins. In addition, you're not consolidating memory. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Goodnight formula. And lastly, zeolite. This is a great way to detoxify your body, get rid of heavy metals, toxins, and chemicals. You can take this every day, take a couple drops, just small drops underneath your tongue, drink it with filtered water. Do that every day throughout the year. Or you can detox once or twice a year. And the way you do that is take a few drops, little drops underneath your tongue, drink it with filtered water, do that daily until the bottle's done, and do that once or twice a year. It's up to you, but it is better to just do a daily maintenance. In addition, make sure you filter your water and make sure you stop eating processed foods, because that's a major source of the chemicals getting into your body. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get this very high quality zeolite that helps to detoxify your body. All right. I want to go to the hill here. We're talking about Syria.
There's still time to give the gift of loop. Unlock the help.
It took less than a week and more than 50 years to topple the brutal Assad regime in Syria. For more than half a century, the Assad family ruled over Syria with an iron fist and did not tolerate any dissent. When the Arab Spring occurred in 2011 and Syrians rose up, Bashar al-Assad cracked down, throwing hundreds of thousands in prison and bombing his own people. To help shore up Assad's support, Iran and Russia propped up the regime, asserting their own influence in the region. Fast forward 13 years, Russia is consumed with its war in Ukraine, and Iran is severely damaged and distracted by Israel's war against Hezbollah. The rebels were able to take advantage of the opening.
Bashar al-Assad fled to Moscow while tens of thousands of refugees have returned to their homes. But it's unclear who's in charge. The U.S. is watching closely to see what emerges. For security, the U.S. struck more than 75 ISIS targets in response. It's important to mention that the man who is leading the charge is Abu Muhammad al-Golani. He is someone who at one point did have ties to anti-American forces in Iraq. He's now preaching pluralism and tolerance, but can that be believed? Now with us to explain all of this is Joyce Karam, a senior news editor for Al Monitor. She has covered the region for decades. Welcome to Rising.
Great to be with you.
So I think there's a lot of jubilation at the Assad regime falling, Assad being a very brutal authoritarian ruler. But the question becomes, what is next for this country? And as with so many of the other Middle Eastern countries, when the leader who was not good, make no mistakes, Gaddafi, Saddam, etc., when they go, what replaces them? And particularly in Libya, the experience was not so great. What are we expecting to see here?
No, for sure. What we're seeing unfold in Syria is truly historic. It's on par with what we see in 1979, the Islamic Revolution in Iran, with other big events in the region, such as the fall of Saddam Hussein. However, you raise an important point. What is next? We don't know yet. That's the answer. This is a transition that's still unfolding. This is a splintered opposition. There are different groups, armed groups in Syria that control different areas. For example, in Damascus, the capital, HTS was not as present there as was the Free Syrian Army and the southern rebels. In the north, we see a mix between HTS and Kurdish groups. So how will this all emerge? It's happening right now. These groups are talking. HTS is communicating with inside leaders and with outside forces to work out the transition, to work out an arrangement that would be hopefully smoother than Libya, smoother than Iraq, but we are not there yet.
In relation to that, Joyce, what do you think are the chances of a reasonably stable Syria coming into being? And related to that, what are we to make of this man, Abu Muhammad al-Gulani, someone who I think has been unfamiliar to most Western audiences until very recently, and is now obviously a pivotal figure? What do you make of him?
So now, two very good questions. Important to note that Syria has been unstable for the last decade and a half, since 2011, since the uprising and then the war. So the degree of stability is still unclear. It depends on the kind of transition that the opposition groups and the remnants of the Assad regime would agree to. So that's one. If there is an agreement in place, if there is a power sharing structure like we saw in Lebanon, for example, after the war in 1990, that would be very good, the best scenario for Syria. If there is more fragmentation, if there is more infighting, then yes, you're absolutely correct. We're looking closer at scenarios closer to Libya, closer to Iraq. Now, as far as Muhammad al-Julani, what we know about him, he's the head of the HTS movement. He's a jihadist leader. He made his name and his fame after being released from U.S. detention in Iraq. He formed the group Jabhat al-Nusra, which was affiliated with Al-Qaeda, closely affiliated with Al-Qaeda. Over the years, that group changed its name and changed its affiliation into Hayat Tahrir Sham. It became more inbred within the Syrian environment and less so with outside jihadist groups and with Al-Qaeda. In the last 4 to 5 years, Julani himself has led HTS to fight Al-Qaeda in Syria, sometimes to clash with ISIS as well. So he reinvented himself to fit better in the Syrian environment within the Syrian opposition. Now, of course, he's designated as terrorist. He's designated by the US, even by Turkey, who's working with him now as his forces advanced in Syria. We can tell by his language, by how he reinvented himself and evolved over time, is his tone has moderated a tiny bit, not a lot. So if you listen to his speech on Sunday at the Umayyad Mosque, it's a message of unity for all Syrians. He asked his supporters not to loot. He's asking people to come together to work on an inclusive transition for Syria. We even now know his real name, Ahmad al-Shara. He is going more by that now. So this is a big change for a man who was almost in the darkness and worked behind the scenes for so long, to be working now in the open with his real name. And he's obviously the most powerful Syrian rebel leader at the moment.
So the U.S. bombed these ISIS targets in Syria without, as far as I know, a congressional authorization for the president to be fighting ISIS in Syria itself. But of course, we do have the global war on terror against groups like ISIS. So what does this do for U.S. involvement in the region? I think Donald Trump and J.D. Vance have both said this is not our fight and we do not want to be involved. There is a suspicion, a growing suspicion, I think, among certainly Republican lawmakers and maybe many of the citizens about being more involved in this region in general, that this has not worked out to our advantage. But because we do have an authorization or a mandate to fight ISIS, is that what's to come here?
It looks like that's the U.S. priority now in addressing the situation in Syria. we've gone full circle in the U.S. role from 2012 and calling on Assad to step down, if you remember, Barack Obama at the time, to not responding to the chemical weapons attack, and now what you're seeing is, we're sort of happy that Bashar al-Assad is out, but this is not our problem. We want to stay out of it. Let the Syrians, let middle powers in the region, such as Turkey, Jordan, other groups, other countries work out the political transition in Syria. But the U.S. mission, the U.S. priority remains fixated on ISIS to prevent a resurgence of ISIS, to prevent that from the current fragmentation, from the current infighting between some opposition groups, that ISIS doesn't take advantage of that. So in the short term, we're still likely to see more of that. In the medium and long term, we'll have to wait to see what President-elect Trump, what strategy he would want for Syria. This is obviously, you remember from 2019, President Trump then wanted to withdraw U.S. forces from Syria. The situation is very different today. So we'll have to wait and see what the next administration does.
Joyce Coran, Senior News Editor with Al Monitor. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.
All right, that's a little bit of Syria. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the NAD+. This helps to boost up your energy levels, also helps to heal your DNA damage, and it helps to protect your neurons. Really important to add this to your stack, especially when you get older. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Boost up the healing process on your DNA damage and protect your neurons. Really important. Ubiquinol, the most bioavailable CoQ10 that you can get. This is a very high quality supplement. Take ubiquinol every day. This is an antioxidant. It'll help to improve the mitochondrial health and boost up your energy levels. And it helps to protect your neurons. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the ubiquinol. This is stackable with C60, NAD+, NAC, resveratrol. This is a great stack supplement. So resveratrol, it's an antioxidant, helps get rid of senescent cells, works really well when you stack it with C60 or NAD+, or ubiquinol. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the resveratrol. Toothpaste. Structural nano silver toothpaste. Whitens your teeth, freshens your breath, protects your gum line, improves your gum line, neutralizes pathogens. This is the best toothpaste you can get. You can't, there's nothing out there that's better. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the structural nano silver toothpaste. It's through good oral hygiene where you're improving your cardiovascular health and you're mitigating the chances of valvular disease. When people get older, they start having problems with their vascular system. A lot of times it's because of, it's not the only reason, but a lot of times it's partially caused by bad oral hygiene. When you get older, your oral hygiene goes down. Go to a nursing home, you'll notice. All right, so the oral hygiene starts to go down, and what happens is that inflammation at the vascular level, microvascular level, starts to increase, and further plaque buildup. In addition, getting irritation on the valve of your heart can start producing calcium deposits, and those calcium deposits can cause stenosis, major problem for your valve, or bacterial vagination or vegetation that starts to accumulate on the valve, creating a prolapse or some sort of regurgitation. Really bad for your heart. So it's really important to have good oral hygiene to mitigate cardiovascular disease and to mitigate valvular disease. You don't want valvular disease. It's really bad for you. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the structural nanosilver toothpaste. All right, let's go to balance of power, see what Bloomberg has to say.
Bashar al-Assad in Syria. He, of course, has now taken refuge in Russia with...
You know, for the ones that are on X Spaces, you know, you can request to have your mic put on and you can ask a question or just, you know, tell me your thoughts on what's going on in the world.
The Assad regime has fallen. This regime brutalized and tortured and killed literally hundreds of thousands of innocent Syrians. The fall of the regime is a fundamental act of justice. It's a moment of historic opportunity for the long-suffering people of Syria to build a better future for their proud country. It's also a moment of risk and uncertainty. As we all turn to the question of what comes next.
That's where we start our conversation with Courtney McBride, Bloomberg national security reporter, who had a busy weekend covering all of this, and we're lucky to have at the table with us now. Courtney, it's good to see you. As the president talks about both sides of this equation, how's the administration balancing what it sees as an opportunity, to use his word, but also a time of heightened risk?
Well, I mean, lots of analysts are warning of the potential risks, and the administration and the incoming Trump administration similarly, I think, are taking something of a wait-and-see approach. The U.S. forces that are in Syria are very focused on the counter-ISIS mission, and really staying away from this HTS-led assault on Damascus and the downfall of Assad.
But as you mentioned, ISIS, the U.S. wasted no time yesterday in striking targets within central Syria, meant it targeting specifically the Islamic State. Should we expect that to continue?
I mean, to the extent that U.S. forces see that there's an opportunity and a need for that, I think we certainly should expect those strikes to continue. Some have suggested that they should in fact ramp up the mission, and that is a potential opportunity for President Trump when he takes office in January. But you know, he and his incoming administration have signaled that they do not want to get further entangled in a conflict in the region.
Israel was quick to move troops into what they call a buffer zone to cross the border. You've got a lot of parties with their own interests. Is the U.S. working with Israel on this, or does Benjamin Netanyahu have his own agenda that doesn't involve the White House at this time?
Well, you know, he keeps his own counsel, I would say, but certainly Israel is working to consolidate potential gains against Iran, which had backed the Syrian regime, and like Russia has been distracted and perhaps allowed the rebel forces to move as quickly as they did. You know, the U.S. and Israel are obviously close allies, but I think each country is certainly pursuing its own national security interests, though they may intersect.
Well, and Israel, of course, has been pursuing its interests in its conflict with Hezbollah that now is in a temporary, for now, ceasefire agreement in Lebanon, bordering Syria. What are the implications to that ongoing conflict, knowing Hezbollah was being a supportive force for Assad's forces until it was materially weakened by Israel's attacks?
Sure. Well, I mean, Syria has been sort of a ground route for Iran to supply Hezbollah, and so there's a lot of concern in Israel, you know, moving quickly, as you said, to try to capitalize on this vacuum in Syria. But there's some concern about what happens with that Lebanon-Syria border. Who's going to secure it? Will the Lebanese armed forces do that? Assad had kept it open to allow for some of that resupply. So that is one of many areas that are going to be a key focus.
Russia has an important naval base on the Mediterranean. What happens to it?
That remains to be seen. I mean, you know, the Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov suggested that negotiations, you know, may be ongoing with whoever ends up taking power. That lone Mediterranean naval base for Russia has been critical, and you know, they will be keen to keep it. But what you know, the group that takes power, whoever it may be, in Syria decides to do is anyone's guess, and they may seek something from Russia, whether that be, you know, the return of Assad for trial or any other inducements. All right, whoever it may be, we have yet to find out. Bloomberg national security reporter Courtney McBride, thank you so much for joining us. And we want to get more insight now from someone who knows this region incredibly well. Retired Lieutenant General Ben Hodges is back with us here on Balance of Power on Bloomberg TV and radio. He's former commanding general of the U.S. Army in Europe and Supreme Allied Commander, but also a veteran of the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. General Hodges, thank you so much for coming back. It's great to have you, sir. As we look at this power vacuum that has very suddenly come into the fore in Syria, just how dangerous is it?
Well, of course, and Courtney did a great job as always just now. Yes, there's danger, but I see huge opportunity. I mean, the situation we're facing now is a result in part of failed deterrence on our part. You know, we did nothing after the Syrians and the Russians jumped over President Obama's red line 10 years ago. And for the last 10 years, U.S. strategy has been tolerance of Assad, hyper-focus on ISIS, but really not much else, and only providing humanitarian aid to the opposition versus real meaningful help. And then the support that we gave to the YPG, which is a branch of the terrorist organization PKK, has really damaged our relationship with our strategic NATO ally, Turkey. So I think if we look at what America's interests are, contrary to what the incoming president said, that we should just stay out and stand by, we have serious interest here. Number one, we do not want Russian or Iranian influence to continue inside Syria. We don't want Syria to be a transit for weapons from Iran to Hezbollah. We don't want Syria to be a place that can export terrorism. And there are more than 3 million Syrian refugees, mostly in Turkey, but also in other countries in Europe, that want to come home and need to come home, and we want to facilitate that. And then finally, of course, Syria being a peaceful neighbor with Israel. So we have to be involved, and now seems to me the right time to start moving in the direction towards those interests.
Well, the postmortem here is pretty remarkable, General, when it comes to strategic errors, the mistakes that Vladimir Putin made specifically that led to this, the oversights, the errors, arguably, strategically, that Iran made that brought us to this point. President Biden spoke about this just a bit when he was addressing the nation yesterday. As an expert in military strategy, speak to the losses that Vladimir Putin brought to his own front step.
Well, you know, the Russians are actually in big trouble in a lot of places right now. And this is, again, opportunity where if we're thinking in a proactive, strategic way, we could damage Russia so badly right now that it could help improve security in the transatlantic area as well as the Middle East for decades to come. Russia is overextended. You know, they've had this Navy base in Tartus now, I think, for something like 50 years. That's been their foothold in the Mediterranean. But then they go to war against Ukraine, which was unprovoked, unnecessary, but they did that. And they have taken such a beating inside Ukraine that they found themselves overstretched. They literally did not have anything meaningful that they could use that could help Assad. And now it looks like possibly, and Courtney is correct, we don't know for sure, but it seems very possible that they will lose their Navy foothold in Tartus and the air base that's near Latakia. That would really be a blow. When they don't have these kind of bases anymore, they become much less of a player in the Eastern Mediterranean.
So, General, you don't see any opportunity here, or to your point on their limited resources and the fact that Russia finds itself overstretched, for them to try to reinstall Assad or protect him in a more material way than just offering him safe harbor for the time being?
Well, you know, when the Russians, they don't care about international law. They don't care about how many innocent people get killed. So I would be reluctant to say that they'll never try anything. But I mean, that would they would really have to show up with a lot of force to reinstall Assad back into power. Anywhere other than perhaps if there ends up being some sort of an Alawite statelet on the coast, perhaps they could stick him back in there, but I don't know that the various forces that have overthrown the Assad regime, if they could ever organize themselves, and of course, there's so many different factions, it's not like one big homogeneous movement, but if they could organize themselves, they could probably prevent that from happening. And again, this is why the United States needs to be proactive. Now is the chance to get rid of Russian and Iranian influence in this region.
Well, with that said, General, how does this inform Vladimir Putin's hand at the negotiating table in Ukraine, presuming he'll be at one soon? We saw images over the weekend with Donald Trump, Emmanuel Macron, and President Zelensky meeting together in Paris, and we know that the incoming president has hopes of drawing this to a close. But after what we just saw take place in Syria, does this actually weaken Putin's hand in Ukraine?
Yes, it does. A great point. I think that, the most important thing is not drawing the war to a close. The most important thing is protecting our strategic interests and defending those things that we say are so important to us around the world. Sovereignty, respect for international law, freedom of navigation, respect for human rights. These are the things that matter to us in the Indo-Pacific. And so the Chinese are watching to see if the United States, if we don't have the political will to help Ukraine defeat Russia, after 11 years of war, with Russia having every advantage, they still only control 18% of Ukraine, and they've lost 700,000 killed and wounded soldiers. Their defense industry is in tatters, and that's without us actually really even trying to help Ukraine win. So instead of starting off the negotiations with Ukraine will have to lose territory, Ukraine will have to accept not joining NATO, why aren't we flipping that around and look at the trouble that the Kremlin is in? They've lost Syria. Their puppet in Tbilisi in Georgia, the Georgia Dream Party, is under enormous pressure from Georgian people who want nothing to do with this return to Russian domination. The election in Romania has been thrown out by the Romanian Supreme Court because they saw such enormous Russian interference in the election. So I think the incoming president, if he really is this master deal maker, he has all the leverage in his advantage.
Well, and it's not just about President Trump, but also those he surrounds himself with in his next administration, sir, including his nominee for Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth. There's still a question as to whether or not he will be confirmed, but with this number of hot conflicts ongoing in the world, do you see him as equipped and qualified to lead the DoD?
Well, of course not. Look, just keep in mind that what's happening in the Middle East right now is only one of several huge strategic problems that the United States and our allies face. We have China that we've already talked about. We have Ukraine, Russia.
I said this on multiple videos, all right, recently. They're going to create, the national security state will create, and I thought this was going to be in Ukraine. I didn't think it would be in Syria, but it's the same issue. Create a situation where the national security state tries to convince the Senate that because of the turmoil that's going on in recent days, that Hegseth isn't going to be qualified, isn't qualified enough for the job. And that create an event where it tries to slow down or prevent the restructuring of the national security state by the Trump administration. And this guy's playing right into it. He's playing right into it. Yeah, create problems and then try to convince senators that Pete Hegseth isn't qualified to handle their emergency.
That we're talking about, and we're not even talking about Africa or South America. So you need a Secretary of Defense, and by the way, you also need a Director of National Intelligence that has the experience, the trust of allies and partners, the
trust of allies and partners, the experience in the intelligence agencies. That sounds like career agent, career deep stater, career national security state guy. That is the antithesis of what individuals that voted for Trump want. We, the people who voted for Trump, at the electoral college level and at the popular vote level, want change in these agencies, especially the National Security State, the DOJ, the Department of Education, HHS, CDC, FDA. We want change. We want restructuring. We want more efficiency. We want these agencies, these departments, to stop eroding the constitutional freedoms of American citizens and stop wasting American taxpayer dollars. But the deep state doesn't want that because they want more money, more power, less oversight, and continue on lying to Congress when they're caught red-handed in the cookie jar.
Muster all of our capabilities to properly analyze and deal with each of these scenarios. And I can't believe that the Senate will forfeit its constitutional role and rubber stamp these nominations. I can't believe that they think this is the best the Republican Party can do to fill these two critical agencies or departments. And
it's not a matter of best, it's the right person for the restructuring. When you're restructuring a corporation, you want someone usually that is not part of the system. You want to hire outside the system. Now, of course, you may have deputies and you know, lower staff members that are helping that change agent. But Pete Hegseth is the right guy for the job, for what we, the people, want. I am so tired of these, quote, experts, you know, former commanding general of the U.S. Army in Europe. Don't you think he has a dog in the race when it comes to NATO? Or maybe, you know, a golden parachute with the defense contractor? I bet he does. Now, what is Trump saying? You know what, Europe? Pay your own way. Stop wasting American taxpayer dollars. Former commanding generals don't want to hear that because it might hurt their contract with the defense industry. So maybe he's not the right guy to ask about change. Did the guy win a war? No. These generals, not one general won a war since World War II. Not one. Not Korea, not Vietnam. Iraq won. The Iraq Desert Storm didn't finish the job. And, you know, we had a sequel right after 9/11 that didn't finish the job. They didn't win it. Did we win Afghanistan? No. Maybe the system is broken. Maybe it needs to be restructured. Maybe it needs to be more efficient. Maybe it needs less DEI. Maybe it needs to focus on weapon systems that are not as costly and that are more lethal. And not give so much optionality on weapon systems like the F-35. The F-35 has so many optionalities that it had cost overruns, it has servicing issues. Why does the Marines need a jet that is different than the Air Force? Because they want vertical takeoff. Well, maybe the Marines don't need a damn an airplane. I think we spend too much money. There's too much overlap. There's too much redundancy. Now, you need some redundancy, but if you really want to, look at this, it's about senators bringing jobs to their state, manufacturing weapon systems that we don't need or that don't perform as well as they should be. And Pete Hegseth wants to change that. Well, don't you think that he's taking away his bread and butter? Pete Hegseth is literally taking away the bread and butter of Lieutenant General Ben Hodges. And Lieutenant General Ben Hodges doesn't like someone taking away his butter. And it looks like he's eating a lot of butter.
Nominee for Secretary of Defense says kill all Muslims. That's going to be a problem when he's dealing with our Turkish allies or trying to work with our allies and partners in the Middle East. And I can mention that there are tens of thousands of Muslim soldiers in the United States military. And of course, his problem with women serving in combat is also a real problem for me. I mean, my God, we have thousands of women that perform important combat duties, aircraft, infantry, submarines. This is not the Second World War where you had a front line in the rear area. The whole place is combat. And so he has not demonstrated to me the depth of understanding of that.
Not mincing words today. General, it's good to see you. Lieutenant General Ben Hodges.
A lot of generals, lieutenant generals, lieutenant colonels, a lot of these people that retire out of the military that had high positions have a golden parachute, and they're tied to the defense contract system somehow, some way, or on a board like a Raytheon, and they continue on pushing the national security state. Time to end that. Time to end that.
Commanding General, U.S. Army Europe, with us in the clutch today on the fastest show in politics. We'll assemble our panel next. I'm Joe Matthew alongside Kaylee Lyons on Bloomberg.
And let's not forget Lieutenant General Hodges, U.S. Army Europe. We have a problem. NATO's expansionism since the fall of the Berlin Wall. That is a problem. And we are in the situation that we're in today, our contemporary issue, because of NATO expansion. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and help support your health and help support the channel. Go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. The link is in the description of this video and all my videos. And get the Max 35 or the Max 14. This is a structural nano silver. What you basically do is you take a teaspoon a day, all right, swish it in your mouth, gargle, and then swallow. It's going to neutralize pathogens. It's going to maintain a mucosal barrier in your oral pharynx, and do that every day. If you're not feeling well during the cold season, take a tablespoon or two a day, all right? It's a great way to boost up your immune system. So please go to my store and get the Max 30, the Max 35, and the Max 14. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. 2 supplements that you should be taking every day, and it's the third pillar of my protocol, is turmeric and ashwagandha. Turmeric brings down inflammation, and it's an antioxidant, so it soaks up free radicals. This brings down pro-inflammatory cytokines. Really important. A lot of people in the United States is chronically inflamed. You want to bring that down. Another thing that you should be taking to bring down inflammation is ashwagandha root. Ashwagandha root will bring down cortisol levels. A lot of people in America have too high of cortisol levels because they're either stressed, they're not sleeping well. And it also controls glucose levels. And by doing that, you're bringing down inflammation in the vascular system. So taking turmeric and ashwagandha together is a great way to improve your immune system and your cardiovascular system. Because if you bring down inflammation, your immune system is better, and by bringing down inflammation, you're reducing the chances of further plaque formation. Because it's the inflammation at the vascular level that leads to plaque formation. You want to stop that. This is a great way to do it. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the turmeric and the ashwagandha. Take it every day. Improve your cardiovascular health and your immune system. All right, I don't know why my spaces blew up for some reason. I don't know, it just stopped functioning. I'm not sure why there was an issue there. I'm not sure. For some reason, the spaces stopped early. I apologize for the ones that were on spaces. And lastly, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the structural nano silver gels. I have it in two ways that you can purchase it: in the tube form or in the container, in that little dispenser form. This dispenser is a great way to carry it around in a bag or a backpack or whatever. But this is a dual purpose product, all right? What you do is that you can use it to neutralize pathogens, put it on your hands, around your mouth, around your eyes, around your nose, around your ears, lightly coat your nostrils, stays active for 5.5 hours. It creates a barrier and neutralizes pathogens, all right? Great way to get through the cold season. It also helps to heal cuts, abrasions, and minor burns quicker. And you can use it as a daily skincare routine. Put it on your skin, keep it on there, and then later in the day, exfoliate. Another way to do it is to put it on your skin right before you go to bed, and then when you wake up, exfoliate in the morning. What you'll notice is that your skin's clearer and tighter, especially around your face. It's a great way as a skincare and to neutralize pathogens during the cold season, heal wounds quicker. It's a great product. It's something that you should have in your medicine cabinet. You should have it in your bag, or or your backpack, because you don't know. We're in the cold season, and people at work are going to be sick. People at at home will be sick, or at school or whatever, right? People around you will be sick this season. Cases are going up in December, most likely also in January. So it behooves you to stock up. Get the structural nanosilver gels, use them, and you are mitigating problems during the cold season. And again, you can improve your skin by using it as a skincare, a daily skincare. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the products that I offer. Help support the channel. With that said, I'm going to close it down. We've been going for about, 230 minutes or so. Thank you for listening. I do appreciate the ones that listen on X. I apologize for the early cancellation of the show for X Spaces. For the ones that have been watching during the live stream, thank you very much. I do appreciate it. Don't be afraid to interact. Get on X Spaces when I'm doing the live streams. Do a call in. Tell me what you're thinking. All right? This is supposed to be interactive. It's a great way to participate in this thing we call democracy. So thank you for listening, and have a nice day.